Chapter 1099. Yun Shi, who knows nothing about this, thinks that being called brother means having a pure sibling relationship with Ein and Adli. Well, in a way, he's not entirely wrong. The sibling relationship in the Sia royal family has always been pure, just like Ein and Adli's parents. The next day, Prince Ash appeared, bringing news about the rare celestial bloodline from the Divine Era Tower. In a continent where there are only a few stray cats left with Divine Era bloodline, you can imagine the shock caused by this news. What? The royal family also has a prince who is an illegitimate child. Duke Parbad, belonging to the royal family of Sia Kingdom, opened his eyes wide and almost couldn't catch his breath. How is this possible? He knows exactly how many members the royal family has, not to mention the branches of the ancient royal bloodline inherited by the empire, all of which are recorded in the family tree. Pure Divine Era bloodline, or a diluted celestial bloodline passed down through generations. What a joke! The previous king was a very faithful person. He only had one queen from beginning to end, adhering to the tradition of quality over quantity, and even sacrificed his own life to give birth to the sisters Ein and Adli. They didn't disappoint. Both inherited the warlock bloodline passed down since the Divine Era and gained recognition from the Divine Era Tower. However, there has never been a case of passing down the diluted bloodline in the history of the Sia royal family. The legitimate Sia royal family, inheriting the Virgin Palace bloodline, although it has also combined with other Divine Era bloodlines. Even through incestuous marriage, it is impossible to restore the bloodline power to that level. Okay. The birth of Ein and Adli was already a miracle in the Sia Kingdom's royal family. Where did this prince named Ash come from? Duke Parbad instinctively felt that there was a problem, a big problem. Based on his understanding of the previous king, there wouldn't be any illegitimate child. What is his lovely niece Ein up to? Prince Ash? Count Gasper, who had recently made a name for himself in the mainland trade union with 3 original Divine Era books offered as tribute to Princess Adli, tapped the table and wore a pensive expression. In our intelligence, did the previous king have a lover? No. The previous king was very fond of his sister, the queen, and never had any close relations with other women. The intelligence officer reporting to Count Gasper shook their head. As the king of a country, the previous king was a respected ruler, diligent and benevolent, almost like a perfect knight. The Sia royal knights led by him would not have suffered such a terrible defeat if they hadn't faced opponents from another era. The magic armor developed by the Leviathan Empire was too powerful on the battlefield. Even so, in the final battle, the royal knights managed to destroy many Tiger-type mass-produced machines. It was not until the 3 tidal machines entered the scene that the era of knights came to an end. Of course, no one expected that Princess Ein would retaliate with a nuclear explosion just a few days later and be given the title Nuclear Explosion Queen. Prince Ash is said to have pure celestial bloodline. Count Gasper thought it was truly a priceless treasure of this era. The celestial bloodline has a special characteristic, which is the ability to greatly enhance the purity of the next generation's bloodline. This fact has been known by everyone since the Divine Era began. The human race is a civilized race that descended from 12 celestial beings. The first generation of the Silver People even had abilities close to those of the Golden People. They called themselves the Golden Children and laid the foundation for the civilization of the continent. With the everlasting youth characteristics of the Golden name, they have always led their descendants. Even though the generations are mixed up, all the descendants revolve around them and ignite the spark of civilization in this world. It was not until the last member of the celestial bloodline died in the war against the Dragon Clan that the golden bloodline of humans was completely cut off. This marked the beginning of a long Silver Age. In the Silver Age, there was a small revival of the golden bloodline, thanks to the alternate generation inheritor who held the title of Dragon Knight. This individual once again achieved the greatness of the ancestors of humanity. As for why this person was given the title of Dragon Knight, well, it's because their hobbies and interests were similar to those of the ancestors from the Divine Era. They were a powerful individual who was passionate about interacting with different races and even had a giant dragon as their mount, with whom they were deeply in love. They rode dragons during the day and at night, and they were open to relationships with females of all races. They left behind thousands of descendants, fully inheriting the characteristics of the four golden ancestral humans. They were active for approximately 1,000 years and are considered one of the ancestors of the bloodline families that exist on the continent today. They made a significant impact on the history of Sia's world. Now, a new celestial bloodline has emerged. This is fantastic news for those ancient families whose bloodline powers are almost disappearing. Count Gaspar can easily imagine how popular this prince will be in the future. People who want to restore their own ancient family heritage, people who want to create a brand new lineage, people who want to revive the glory of the divine era. Inside here, you can make money. Count Gaspar made a decision to bet on this Prince Ash, no matter the cost. They also want to climb aboard this great ship that has an endless bright future. The winds of change have come. His Majesty, Ludwig XII, the Emperor of the Leviathan Empire, angrily smashed his own cup. There are actually people in this world with divine blood? Isn't that ancient thing a legendary story of the divine era? In the weakened modern era of Magic Tide, how could there still be those with the original divine era lineage appearing? Who can tell me what exactly is going on? Those Senate bastards, they are in big trouble now. As the emperor of an empire that values science, Ludwig XII now feels that everything that has happened recently is completely unscientific. Firstly, his Nissan suddenly mastered the ultimate forbidden spell of the divine era and obliterated his first magic army legion that he had worked tirelessly to build, forcing him to send his beloved princess Roland as a hostage as compensation. Then even the world's first golden bloodline appeared. Could it be an illegitimate child? Knowing his stubborn relatives so well, it would be a huge joke if he had an illegitimate child, being a lifelong Siscon. Even if there were an illegitimate child, it would be his sister's illegitimate child. He must have a hidden sister that nobody knows about. Chapter 1100. Thinking back to the past, he and the former king of the kingdom were actually distant cousins, having studied together in an academy. In those days, the relationship between the two countries was in a honeymoon period, and intermarriage was a very common occurrence. He vividly remembered how uncomfortable and restless he felt when he first laid eyes on his cousin, who was the first princess of the Sia kingdom at that time. The first crown prince of the empire, the first prince of the kingdom, and the first princess were actually very good friends in private. And he had a secret crush on his cousin, and he planned to propose to her after he became the emperor of the empire. He was the emperor of the empire, and she was the princess of the kingdom. They were considered cousins according to the family tree, and their identities and status matched perfectly. The most important thing was that he fell in love with her at first sight. Love at first sight is truly amazing. In order to become an emperor worthy of her, he studied hard and often invited his cousins to his house as guests. It was a beautiful time that is deeply cherished. Little did he know, before he could propose, the two of them got married and left him, the future emperor of the empire, feeling lost and confused. But you two are actually blood-related siblings. What happened to the good old brother-in-law? How did he become the enemy who stole his own bride? No wonder, from the beginning he felt that this pair of siblings were really too close. It turns out that this pair is not just ordinary childhood friends, but something more. The emperor, who had dog food smeared on his face, finally made up his mind to forget about this failed first love and started studying hard. He aspired to become the greatest emperor in the history of the empire. He married the empress, who came from a powerful noble family, and several other concubines. He ignored the objections of the Senate and provided resources to alchemists and scholars to develop a terrifying killing machine called the magic armor. This paved the way for the empire to expand and conquer. The invasion of Sia Kingdom was due to the fact that in their treasury, there were essential resources for making magic armor and tidal machine cores, treasures that alchemists had been longing for. When he heard the news of the former king and queen's death in battle, he was momentarily lost and saddened. However, as the emperor, he was no longer the young man who would lose himself in love at first sight. The emperor carried the future of the empire, the power of a new era called science. He started this era, created powerful weapons like never before, and is even about to change the whole world. For the Emperor of Leviathan Empire, the love affairs of his children are a thing of the past. The current him is accumulating strength and even sacrifices his most outstanding daughter, Roland, by sending her as a hostage to the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order of the Kingdom. Even though Ein has mastered the power of the nuclear explosion forbidden spell, the Emperor still believes that the direction of the times has not changed. Human life is ultimately limited. Even the Golden Ancestors only live for thousands of years. Even if Ein possesses the power of the nuclear explosion forbidden spell, how long can he protect the kingdom? As long as Ein is dealt with, the kingdom will still be a prize for the Empire. Even if this generation cannot get rid of Ein, the next generation, and the generation after that, the Emperor will ultimately let the power of science triumph over everything. Moreover, the power of a nuclear explosion is not necessarily something exclusive to Ein. In the historical records, the first mention of nuclear explosions was during the end of the Divine Era by an alchemy warlock called Field. He didn't know how his niece, Ein, mastered the ultimate forbidden spell of nuclear explosions, but since she could control it, the Leviathan Empire, with its entire scientific system, might also be able to master this power. Humans, after all, have shorter lifespans and are not like the mythical dragons. The Leviathan Empire, with its scientific system, will definitely have the last laugh. The Emperor firmly believed in this. Unless Ein can surpass the limits of being a hero-ranked individual and become an eternal immortal legend, which is impossible. This era of weakened magic tides is destined to belong to the age of science. If there was even a slight possibility, the mages of the past would not have despaired and ended their traditions, becoming alchemy warlocks and scholars who no longer relied on magic. Who would have thought that the Sia Kingdom had such a hidden card, and his lovely niece, Ein, possessed this ability? How could something like genetic inheritance across generations appear in this era? Celestial bloodline, giving this prince Ash 100 years. Is he another dragon knight? Call Asmod Poinkar. Come here. Rubbing his forehead, Ludwig XII decides to listen to his advisors once again, the core members of the Academy of Sciences. Asmod, the most outstanding alchemical warlock of this era, the spiritual leader of the ancient magician guild artisan faction, inheriting the alchemical research techniques of the Divine Era magicians, and the director of the Magic Armor Construction Project. Poinkar, the most outstanding mathematician of this era, the leader of the Ancient Magician Guild theoretical faction, inheriting the Divine Era magicians' understanding of the world and their deconstruction spells, and the initiator of the Magic Armor Construction Project. These two people are the leaders of the alchemical warlocks and scholars respectively, and are also the right and left hands of Ludwig XII. After the complete end of the Divine Era, when the world entered the period of magic tide decline, the magicians who were once only one step away from reaching the stars fell to the ground. Some of them escaped into the sunless underground cemetery, attempting to endure the period of magic decline through self-sealing, waiting for the magic-rich period to reappear in an unknown era. The other group lost their ability to cast spells, but remained on the surface, splitting into two factions. One faction became alchemical warlocks through their research and manufacturing of various sophisticated machinery, while the other faction began conducting purely theoretical research that doesn't require magical support, becoming scholars. Both factions, having lost their magical powers, were once persecuted by the knights who still possessed great strength. Knights who used to be servants and protectors of the mages, unexpectedly became the main protagonists in an era of weakened magic, vying for dominance. A few Divine Era bloodline warlocks, who relied on the power of their bloodlines to cast spells, gathered together and chose the only well-preserved Divine Era tower as their holy land. They established Sia Kingdom. Once powerful wizards who held high positions, they were completely cast down from their lofty status and could no longer rely on the power of their bloodline to perform magic. They also lost the ability to tap into the forces of the world. They were persecuted to the point where their lineage was almost wiped out. In the end, It was Ludwig the First who took in these desperate alchemist warlocks and scholars because Ludwig himself was a rebel, not accepting being the first knight of the Sia kingdom warlock bloodline lineage. Ludwig I, at that time, probably didn't imagine that the current Leviathan Empire would embark on a development path called science. Chapter 11:01 Asmid, the representative of the alchemical warlock faction Leviathan Empire, was a middle-aged man with a physique different from that of a wizard. Standing close to 2 meters tall, with muscles that resembled marble, he looked like a mythical strongman, his golden sideburns glistening in the sun. In contrast, Poinkar, the representative of the scholars, embodied the image everyone had of noble academics. With an elegant monocle, meticulously groomed gray hair, and a trim figure, even though he was over 50, he could still elicit squeals from young girls. This was the result of historical evolution. The former wizards who had lost their ability to cast spells, aside from those who had sealed themselves in the underground cemetery, the remaining factions took completely different paths. The alchemical warlocks set aside their staves and picked up hammers, focusing on creating weapons and equipment for the knights who roamed the battlefield. They also worked hard on researching various war machines that didn't require magic. The scholars, on the other hand, devoted themselves wholeheartedly to serving the royal family, while continuing their research on the truths of the world, advancing in the fields of theoretical mathematics, astronomy, and physics. The leaders of the two factions of this generation gathered under Ludwig XII. By combining the practical abilities of the alchemical warlocks and the wisdom of the scholars, they finally created a monster called the magic armor. This was a big step in the history of science. War was always the most powerful tool to promote the development of civilization. The descendants of magicians who lost their magical powers were able to stand on the grand stage of history again, but this time using science. Your Majesty, Ludwig, did you call us? The latest title machine is about to be completed, but there are still some issues with the drivers. Asmid proudly stroked his beard. The title machine is the ultimate embodiment of the magic armor system, with power surpassing that of ordinary hero-ranked warriors. It is the ace of the entire Leviathan Empire. Every edition of a title machine means another ace added to Leviathan's deck. Regarding the issue of mental animal contamination, we still don't have a perfect solution, but we have made some progress. We need more hero-ranked knights as test subjects. Poinkar's voice was deep and magnetic, addressing the current biggest problem. I know all this, but that's not the biggest problem now. Ludwig XII threw 2 intelligence reports, which contained urgent information from the Princess Knights sent to the Empire at lightning speed. Inside, there were the most detailed information about Prince Ash so far. Ash age, around 14 years old. Ethnicity, celestial bloodline, known as the Golden Name, inherited through generations. Father, former king of the Sia kingdom. Mother unknown. Height, weight, measurements kept secret. Hobbies, seems to be fond of Princess Adley. Gained complete loyalty from the troll clan, Saramanda. Personality, calm and has a strong affinity. Unknown strength. Position, captain of the Holy Silver Dragon Knights Order Vice. Next in line to inherit the Sia kingdom. Not mentioning the other details, just the line about their ethnicity as celestial bloodline is enough to make the pupils of the descendant mages Asmid and Poinkar shrink. Impossible. How could there be such a strong inheritance across generations in the weakened era of Magic Tide? Asmid almost tore apart the documents in front of him. If the original bloodline of the Divine Era could be born during the weakened period of Magic Tide, these former mages would not have given up the path of magic so despairingly and turned to science. In theory, this phenomenon is impossible. Poinkar tapped on the documents. He wouldn't question the data given to them by the Emperor, but he was trying to deduce the possibility from a theoretical standpoint. However, no matter how many times he deduced with his genius mind, he couldn't find any basis to support the birth of the original bloodline of the Divine Era. During the period of Magic Tide decline, the reproduction and birth rates of all magical creatures were continuously decreasing, and many races had even completely disappeared from Sia's world. Even the Dragon Clan, who used to be at the top of the pyramid, had completely retreated and practically gave up their crown in the oceans. Similarly, humans who had lost their magical powers no longer had the ability to wage wars like in the Divine Era. Both the Sia camp and the Leviathan faction were experiencing a great decline during the period of magic tide decline. As the inheritor of mage wisdom, Poinkar, whose talents were enough to earn him the title of Sage in the Divine Era, understood the problems better than anyone else. Poinkar, my dear friend, didn't you tell me that even without doing anything, the Divine Era bloodline would still come to an end? Ludwig XII looked at his newest court sage, Poinkar, the most remarkable mathematician of the era. His theories, combined with Asmod's genius technology, propelled the advancement of science and created a war weapon called the magic armor, instantly elevating the Leviathan Empire to the world's top ranking. He wanted to know what explanation the almost inevitable forbidden spell Mage Poinkar, born in the Divine Era, would give him. Indeed, it is the trend of the world's development. As long as we are in the period of magic tide decline, any extraordinary bloodline will continuously weaken. Poinkar had no doubt about his theory. This is the conclusion unanimously reached by all scholars since the end of the Divine Era, just like the ebb and flow of natural rules. The accumulation of our observed results confirms this conclusion. The Leviathan's breathing cycle has not encountered any issues. This era belongs to science. The breathing cycle of Leviathan, the wizards in the later Divine Era, and the modern scholars observe the world rules, which is the essence of magic tide. Legend has it that the land and oceans of this world are formed from the corpses of Leviathan killed by the creator god's sword Sia. The so-called high tide of magic is believed by wizards to be the breath of Leviathan's world-breathing stage, where Leviathan, the sky beast, instinctively releases magic power. During this stage, all kinds of fantasies constantly appear. At first, there were dragons, then giants, followed by more types of fantasy, and finally, humans appeared. These humans are not modern humans, but the ancestors of the human race, the 12 demigods with primal bloodlines. Throughout the early and middle periods of the Divine Era, they were in the high tide of magic. The humans that eventually appeared developed the civilization of magic to an unprecedented level, even beginning to explore the ultimate power of nuclear explosions. Then, the decline of the magic tide arrived. Wizards began to lose their powers. All extraordinary bloodlines grew weaker, and even the dragon at the top of the pyramid was not an exception. Chapter 1102. During this stage, the mages at the end of the Divine Era and the scholars who inherited their knowledge discovered the truth. The inhale in Leviathan's breath. During the inhaling stage, the body of Leviathan, which is the world itself, releases a large amount of magic, giving birth to the most powerful dragon race and the original humans who possess the Sia god weapon. During the exhaling stage, the magic that once filled the atmosphere of this world begins to flow back into Leviathan's body. All living beings residing on Leviathan have to face the weakening period of the magic tide. Similarly, this conclusion gave hope to the mages who were heading towards their end. In the late Divine Era, the mages divided into two factions because of this discovery. Some mages entered the underground ruins with many precious treasures from the Divine Era, deciding to rely on the power of the underground cemetery ruins to survive in a sealed state. They weakened their life fluctuations infinitely to zero, waiting for the period of magic replenishment to begin again, without knowing when it will happen. Another group of wizards chose to accept the fate of life and death, as well as the outcome of losing their magic and becoming ordinary people. They continued the ancient wisdom through the inheritance of knowledge. In the final stages of the Divine Era, human society collapsed completely for a period of time. Countless treasures were moved into the underground cemetery and never appeared on the surface again. The most powerful wizards who controlled the fate of the mainland at that time chose to enter a long sleep, waiting for the dawn of a new era. The remaining wizards continued to observe the truths of the world and adapted to the rules of life and death. They formed two major schools, alchemical warlocks, and scholars. Essentially, magic has not disappeared. It simply exists in different ways. Poincare began writing formulas on the walls of the palace. This personality of switching directly into scholar mode without considering the occasion or situation is the style of the contemporary sage Poincare. Even though his formulas were incomprehensible to Ludwig XII, who received the finest education in the empire, it didn't hinder him from depicting the truths of the world through mathematics. Magic, as an energy, doesn't arise without reason, nor does it disappear without reason. The magic in the world, like the tides of the ocean, follows the principle of conservation of energy. The last opportunity for the birth of the divine era's primal bloodline happened as a result of the final surge of the magic tide before it entered a period of decline. In the natural order, there is no longer a fertile ground for the birth of the divine era's primal bloodline in this era. With a heavy stroke of the chalk, Poincare completed the derivation of the formula, confirming the correctness of the result. Science, not mysticism, is the truth that explains the rules of the world. Only what science can prove is truth, while things that cannot be proven or disproven are like a black box. At this moment, what Poincare deduced through mathematical formulas is a negation. The primal bloodline of the divine era cannot possibly arise in this era. So, what is the deal with this Prince Ash? Ludwig trusts his sage, whose formulas have never yielded a wrong result. Because if there were any erroneous factors, this formula would be completely invalid. That is the wisdom possessed by the modern sage Poincare, a combination of ancient wizards and modern scholars in human civilization. The formula is not valid. He is not from the divine era's original bloodline, and at the very least, he cannot possibly belong to the naturally born divine era golden bloodline. Poincare hesitated for a moment and began walking towards another wall. Deduction, starting again. In the absence of the destructive spells of the wizards, the scholars not only didn't stop their theoretical research, but even made further progress. Because this is their pride, living on the ground, and the only thing they will not bow down to anyone for. In the divine era, magic was believed to be the truth that explained everything, until the wizards lost their magical powers. Only then did they realize that magic is not everything. There are some things that surpass magic. Magic is just a means of interpreting and utilizing these things. Nowadays, this means is called science. If it isn't the natural birth of divine era's original bloodline, then what has caused Prince Ash to appear? This is the question Poincare set for himself. His brain, comparable to the ancient wise, is running at full speed. Even tiny drops of blood are starting to seep out of his nose. It is the sign that Poincare has entered the state of deep contemplation. Any impossible probability, if it becomes reality, then it is 100% outcome. No matter how small that probability is, it has already become reality. If in the natural phenomenon, true original bloodline could not be born, then in an unnatural phenomenon. In this world, perhaps only Poincare can see the truth after peering through layers of fog. It is the result of his pondering and the wisdom of the modern wise of this world. Magic hasn't disappeared, it has just returned to the world in a different way. The core we need to build the tidal machine is none other than the perfect gemstone that has absorbed the accumulated magic of the world, existing even before the divine era. If the tidal machine can harness the power of life through the perfect gemstone, so humans may also be able to do the same thing. Therefore, even though it seems unreasonable, this result can be deduced. I understand this Prince Ash is. After incorporating various, almost impossible conditions, Poincare found a logical answer in a forbidden experiment about the divine era alchemical warlock. It's an artificial human. Poincare opened his eyes, and the chalk in his hand snapped in the middle. The wall in front of him was already covered with countless formulas. Even the chief alchemical warlock Asmod looked overwhelmed at them. In this world, besides Poincare himself, probably no one can understand what these formulas represent. His intelligence surpassed the limitations of this era. Magic armor, in the first place, doesn't belong to this era of low productivity. It was Poincare, the extraordinary mathematician with the wisdom of a sage, who constructed the core formula for the title machine. It was then manufactured by the chief alchemical warlock Asmod, resulting in this terrifying war machine. People didn't know that the original test machine for the magic armor was called a title machine, and the rest were gradually deteriorating products. Artificial human, are you saying that Prince Ash's bloodline wasn't naturally occurring? Ludwig XII stood up. Yes, that's the correct answer. The king, who was obsessed with his deceased sister, took away the troublemaker who was his dream lover, but they were inseparable in life and death. Having a secret child is simply a fairy tale. Chapter 1103 Prince Ash wasn't a natural creation, but rather the result of a forbidden spell from the divine era. That's what's normal. Based on his understanding of his former good friend, the chances of him cheating and having a secret child are smaller than stars falling to the ground. He was so attached to his sister that he couldn't spend a day without her. Even at the age of 20, he still showered with his sister, and in the end, he married his own sister. He was irredeemably obsessed with his deceased sister. I didn't expect the kingdom to complete a forbidden experiment that even the late divine era couldn't accomplish. Is this the final glory of ancient alchemy? After learning about Prince Ash, Asmod felt a mix of envy, jealousy, and resentment. He also wanted to perform such forbidden experiments. He also wanted to recreate the glorious times of the divine era alchemic warlocks. In an era where there was no magic power available, the pursuit of truth by the alchemic warlocks only grew stronger, which is why they created the groundbreaking invention of magic armor. There was no alchemic warlock who would not be interested in those forbidden experiments from the divine era. The problem is, it is completely impossible to reproduce the experiments from that era. No materials. No materials. No materials. The important thing is said 3 times. The powerful wizards of the end of the divine era collected almost all the treasures they could find and brought them into the underground cemetery, which was completely separated from the ground. For example, the Divine Era Resource Library recorded about 100 perfect quality gems back then, which was the accumulation of the entire Divine Era and essential for various advanced experiments. After the end of the Divine Era, the newly formed Leviathan Empire gathered the whole national strength, but only found about 10 perfect quality gems, even after going from the southernmost part to the northernmost part of the continent and trading with other races at any cost. Why did Ludwig XII, who had a good relationship with King of Sia Kingdom and still had feelings for his first love, Queen Sia, launch this war? They were forced to do so because they needed a large number of high-grade and perfect quality gems to build more title machines and magic armors, which were strategic necessities of the entire era. Compared to the underground cemetery that the human army couldn't enter at all, the gems Ludwig I saw in the Divine Era Tower were undoubtedly the best target. The fundamental purpose of the war launched against Sia Kingdom was these gems, and also the Divine Era garden taken care of by the fairy butterflies in that tower. After the alchemical warlocks and scholars of the Leviathan Empire read Ludwig I's descriptions of the tower in his diary, every one of them went crazy. Even the courteous and considered gentleman, the modern sage Poincare, had eyes shining when he saw those records. A complete treasure trove preserved from the Divine Era until now. A large number of perfect quality gemstones, endless high-quality gemstones. The number of gemstones sleeping in this treasure trove can only be compared to the time when the Divine Era mages plundered the entire continent. If these gemstones are obtained, along with those rare resources, alchemical warlocks can build triple-digit title machines and 5-digit exquisite magic armor for the Leviathan Empire. Even in the battlefields of the Divine Era, this is enough to overturn the entire world situation with its power. Title machines, as war tools, can unleash terrifying power far beyond that of ordinary god weapons, depending on the user. Frankly speaking, none of the title machine drivers in the Empire can truly unleash the power of the title machine, unless they encounter the ultimate forbidden curse, like a nuclear explosion. Tidal machines can be invincible in this era of weakened magic tides. As a result of the wisdom of modern scholars and alchemist warlocks, this is a product that spans across time. The only thing that limits this power is the resources needed to build the core gemstones. To obtain the gemstones needed to build more magic armor, the Leviathan Empire can even go to war with the legendary Dragon Clan. Since it is only an artificial primal bloodline, there is no need to worry. Artificial things, after all, have flaws. Ludwig Xi's mouth showed a happy curve. This was the best news he had heard today. Unfortunately, Your Majesty, it's probably not what you think. Poinkar completely ignored Ludwig Xi's bewildering confidence and poured cold water on him. Even the perfect divine era primal bloodline, even if it is artificial, can reproduce descendants. There is no evidence to prove that artificial things will always be weaker than natural ones. It is even possible that the divine era primal bloodline appearing this time is the strongest ever in history. Science is real and cold-hearted. It will not change based on anyone's imagination. Ludwig XII was an excellent and wise ruler who strongly supported science, but he didn't truly understand the essence of science. Wait, so artificial humans can also have children? Ludwig XII was completely confused. Yes, there is no evidence to suggest that artificial humans cannot have children or that they are weaker than humans. Since even Princess Roland recognizes that Prince Ash's perfect bloodline, it must be a well-established fact. Fake bloodlines cannot deceive people, even if they are artificially created divine era original bloodlines. If they can achieve or even surpass the true intergenerational genetic effects, then it proves that these bloodlines are perfect. Poincar's formula was very clear, understandable, and it pointed directly to the essence, which was the only thing that Ludwig XII didn't like about it. He always felt that his intelligence was not on the same level as this wise person, which was quite a blow for a talented and ambitious ruler. Fortunately, he was not alone. Asmod mentioned that he also didn't understand what his good friend was saying. Poinkar looked at the two monkeys beside him and began to consider using a more suitable example to help them understand what was going on. There's no way. Mortal's wisdom has limits. Even Asmod has long given up on the path of pursuing the essence of truth. He's better at using a hammer and machinery to solve problems. For this reason, he has always felt it necessary to compile popular science books like mathematical formulas that even monkeys can understand, so that they can understand the relationship between 1 + 1 and the ebb and flow of the magical tide. Prince Ash can be seen as the perfect ideal of our magic armor. Originally, our magic armor plan was derived from the research on artificial humans by alchemists during the Divine Era. Certainly, in order to create this Prince Ash, the Sia Kingdom must have accumulated resources for thousands of years, just to complete that forbidden experiment. Chapter 1104, The Perfect Ideal of Magic Armor. Speaking of things like artificial humans, Ludwig XII really doesn't understand. It's the highest level of alchemy in the Divine Era. Nuclear explosion, artificial human, and Philosopher's Stone are among the greatest challenges in the world that even mages couldn't conquer during the peak of human civilization in the Divine Era. Now, the Empire's proud technology of magic armor. Can you believe it originated from the same kind of experiment as Prince Ash, an artificial human? How is it possible that he, as the Emperor of the Empire, doesn't know about this? Yes, the development of magic armor itself was not for the purpose of warfare, but rather a new project to simulate the most perfect human physique. Its prototype is the Golden People. But even the most skilled alchemist warlocks of the Divine Era could not reproduce the details of the original Divine Era bloodline. All the artificial human experiments failed. Babies created through artificial wombs were all born with congenital defects. In the end, this experiment was abandoned and considered an impossible forbidden experiment. After the end of the Divine Era, we began to revisit our initial research and gave up on the plan to replicate the perfect Divine Era bloodline. Poinkar reminisced about his original intention in developing magic armor. In the beginning, the magic armor was not developed as a weapon for war, but as a simulation of the original bloodline from the divine era. Instead of following the traditional path of alchemical warlocks from the divine era, they took a different approach. Since they couldn't achieve a perfect replica, they decided to lower their standards and focus on partially simulating the bloodline instead. The system of the original bloodline from the divine era was too intricate. Even the alchemical warlocks from that time couldn't figure it out. So, they decided to amplify it and increase the margin of error, creating enormous creatures that resembled giants, using the human form as the basis. The essence of the title machine is a man-made giant, a tool to test theories of the alchemical warlocks. However, when Ludwig XII, who sponsored this project, was shocked to discover that this simulated giant had strength surpassing that of a normal hero-ranked knight by more than 10 times, and was capable of shattering city walls into pieces with a single punch, the plan completely changed. They decided to clothe this simulated giant, powered by a flawless gemstone, in armor that was far beyond what a human could handle. Along with the hero-ranked knights who controlled these artificial giants, they created the most powerful war weapon of the new era, the title machine. Furthermore, they also created a new type of magic armor by combining parts of the artificial giant's flesh and systems, albeit in a degraded form. The magic armor system of the entire empire was the result of continuous degradation like this. At the lowest level, even ordinary people without any fighting skills can control machines that don't have the flesh of artificial giants to prepare for wearing more advanced magic armor. Only humans with true talent and the ability to go further can gradually adapt to the fighting style of magic armor and eventually ride on the new type of magic armor that is powered by hero-ranked knights. As for the strongest title machine, the entire Leviathan Empire used the strength of the whole country to only build 9 of them. So, that Prince Ash is a higher-level scientist than our title machine? Ludwig XII could hardly believe his ears. Based on the results, it seems so. Poincare nodded, not knowing what kind of black box technology Sia Kingdom used to create Prince Ash. All probabilities of impossibility, under the condition that they have become facts, have been proven to be possible. The technology of magic armor is theoretically the most perfect way to artificially create human bloodlines, and only the power of the original bloodlines from the divine era can accept the synchronization of human consciousness and unleash a power far beyond that of an ordinary hero ranked. From the perspective of pure power output, Prince Ash with a human body naturally cannot compare to title machines that have a perfect gemstone core and have power that is 10 or even 100 times that of a normal hero ranked. However, from a technological and theoretical perspective, Prince Ash himself is the most perfect evolutionary direction for humans, as the golden people blessed by Sia. Lifespan that lasted for thousands of years, the ability to mate and have offspring with any species, wisdom and strength that humans cannot imagine. Why did the alchemists of the divine era go to great lengths to conduct these forbidden experiments? Even after the end of the divine era, scholars didn't give up researching in this direction. This is the answer. Born during the magical tide period, the golden human bloodline symbolizes the ultimate perfection of humanity and is so enchanting. Even during the decline of the magical tide, humans with the golden bloodline can still freely use magic because their magical power is completely integrated into their bloodline. The warlock, the only human occupation that still possesses the ability to use magic in the continent, is the best proof that the golden bloodline of the people is perfect in any era and can surpass the influence of the magical tide. It is a beacon of hope for the mages who have lost their magical power. Magic armor is the intellectual crystallization created by the mages who have lost their magical power using the power of science, which allows humans to return to the glory of the divine era. The evidence is that the title machine has extraordinary power of their own. Poincare also lost his composure when he discovered this. For the wizards who have lost their magical power for too long, this is simply a miracle. Unfortunately, the lowest requirement for controlling the title machine also requires a hero rank physique. For the wizards who have lost their magical power, this is simply a prank of the world. The reproduced extraordinary magical power is out of reach for the most orthodox mage successors. there is nothing sadder in this world. Even Poinkar, known as a modern sage, only has a normal human physique level. Without warlock bloodline, he can never cast a fireball in his lifetime. On the other hand, Asmid, who spends his days blacksmithing and can wield a large hammer, may have a chance to become a warrior by using the title machine. This is nothing short of a dark comedy. I want all the information about Prince Ash. Ideally, we should be able to impregnate members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. The more samples, the better. Poinkar stared into Ludwig Xi's eyes and voiced his needs. You are always so reckless. My Poinkar. Ludwig 12 tapped his throne with his fingers and nodded. This plan can be carried out. Poinkar rarely showed a smile. Yes, his requests were always unanswered because he could always see what people needed in their hearts. Ludwig 12 never refused his requests. The power of science is enough to unravel all mysteries. He never had any doubts about this. Chapter 1105 Ludwig 12 and Sage Poinkar, the first alchemy warlock Asmid, decided the time for a certain plan in the Empire's most secretive underground fortress and received an unexpected guest. Is it here, the Empire's newest title machine, my Black Knight? Wearing a black cloak, Morris strolled through the shadows, his eyes burning with desire as he looked at all kinds of large machinery around him. A whole squadron of Tiger 3 models were stationed in this corridor, elite knights in magic armor patrolling around the massive steel gates, not missing a single corner. They were all knights who had the potential to be chosen as titled machine pilots in the future, just like Morris, and were seen as the future of the Empire. So far, the Empire's title machines were custom-made for specific hero-ranked warriors, each one unique and symbolizing the Empire's greatest power. However, this newest title machine was different from the ones before. It was not designated for a specific pilot yet, still in a blank state. In order to gain ownership of this blank title machine, the major aristocratic families of the Leviathan Empire were scrambling, with rumors that over 100 people had conducted simulation tests. By rights, Morris, who had just advanced on the battlefield, should have been the owner of this title machine. But what angered Morris was that after returning from the Sia Kingdom, his request to pilot the title machine was promptly rejected by the higher-ups in the Empire, without any hesitation. Their reason was, you haven't undergone any tests related to the title machine, and your suitability is not as good as the pre-qualified pilots who have already undergone extensive testing for this title machine. Don't worry, the Empire's title machine will have a place for you in the future. It just takes several years of waiting. Young people, you need to practice and improve more. It's for your own good. The next title machine will definitely be yours, but for now, let's give up. This Black Knight isn't the type tailor-made for you. There are better ones waiting for you. Lying all lies. Morris has been in close contact with this black title machine and coincidentally discovered that the perfect six-sided gemstones needed to build title machines cannot be found anywhere else in the entire Empire. In other words, this blank title machine might be the last one in the entire Empire for a long time. Why does he need to practice more and wait for a better title machine? The future is yours. To consider the overall situation, let's give this opportunity to someone else for now. Everyone is deceiving him, thinking he is an ignorant fool and a helpful person. Actually, he is truly a good person. During the border war, he was always brave and would charge forward. Whenever he had free time, he would be in his powerful tiger-like magic armor, improving his skills with the armor. He genuinely loves magic armor, an amazing weapon of war. Its massive body, crushing power, and the earth-shattering sound it makes when running. Painting his magic armor with a bright red color, he gallops on the battlefield, aiming to achieve greatness for the Empire. Perhaps this is the dream of all young people in the Empire. He fulfilled his own dream and hopes to accomplish that fantastical goal in his lifetime. The title machine is the ultimate fantasy in the minds of all Empire soldiers, and he is a member of it as well. For this dream, he is willing to sacrifice his own life. He is a good person, someone who joins the army for his own ideals, and is happy to help others and brave enough to charge into battle. Therefore, when Morris realized that he had been fooled by dirty politicians and nobles, he fell into complete silence. He didn't have great eloquence to argue with those politicians who spoke so beautifully, nor did he possess overwhelming force to prove that he was more suitable for the Black Knight than anyone else. In the end, he could only make a choice. I want to prove that it's mine. It must be mine. No matter who it is, they can't take away what belongs to me. It is mine. Standing in the shadow of the corridor, Morris, who was completely covered in black particles, contracted his pupils. Facing the coveted title machine, he had to do this. Some things will never belong to you if you don't seize them. Politics, the big picture, relationships. There were too many obstacles in front of him. He wasn't a prince or a noble, just a knight who had recently reached the hero rank. In terms of qualifications and the importance of the Empire's big picture, his chances of getting this black title machine were almost zero. Why? I worked so hard and finally qualified to have my own title machine. You guys are weaker than me. I am the real hero-ranked knight. No one is more qualified than me to ride this title machine. It belongs to me. If I miss it, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Morris gritted his teeth and once again relied on the power of the abyss. Many black particles flew around Morris, instantly passing through the walls made of steel and bringing Morris to the black machine that had just been completed. This machine, called the title machine, is Leviathan's latest creation. It is a masterpiece made with the latest technology and currently the only blank body among all title machines without a designated driver. A body nearly 10 meters tall, adorned with imposing black heavy armor, a high horn standing on its forehead, and carrying a gigantic knight electrical spear on its back. My one and only wish, Black King, the symbol of power. You are mine. No one can take you away. From the moment Morris first laid eyes on this black title machine, he knew it was his lifelong pursuit. The reason he stained his armor with countless blood in the border war and threw himself into the battlefield regardless of everything was all for the thing in front of him. The dark armor, the unique super-electric rifle among all the titled machines, and the perfect, powerful heavy armor all deeply attracted him. Weight, about 200 tons. Height, 10 meters. Equipped with a titled weapon that can destroy a city in one strike. 12 fairy-type coxswain light cannons, and the ability to fight in any terrain in the atmosphere. Codename, Black Overlord, the strongest titled machine that the Leviathan Empire invested all new technologies in to conquer the world. And because of that, in order to select the strongest driver, there was no restriction on which hero-ranked knight could operate this titled machine. Because it was a titled machine reserved for the yet-to-be-born Empire's strongest knight. It was the Black King's body. In order to obtain it, Morris was willing to sacrifice his own life in exchange for the qualification to obtain it. Chapter 1106. It's mine. It's all mine. No one can take it away. Morris looked pale as he stared at the huge black magic armor standing in front of him. The recently completed Black Overlord had a lot of construction machinery on it, and some parts were still blank and sealed off. A large number of black wires extended from the armor of the Overlord, finally converging into a device resembling a placenta beneath its feet. This testing machine, called Black Overlord, is the only way for a knight to truly control this title machine and ride it into battle, but only after testing it with a very high synchronization rate. As the flagship machine of the Leviathan Empire, incorporating the latest technology, the Black Overlord requires the highest mental and physical capacity, to the point where there is currently no qualified pilot in the entire Empire. Just like its name, Black Overlord, this machine is designed for the future Empire's strongest knight, and not developed for any hero-ranked knights at this stage. Because of this, it has driven numerous noble families' children crazy, even causing several princes to fight each other. Due to various exchanges of interests, the testing schedule for the Black Overlord has already been arranged for a year later. For new hero-ranked knights like Morris, it is simply a luxury to hope for a chance to be included in the upcoming testing sequence. If he hadn't advanced to become a hero-ranked knight, there wouldn't have been even a slight possibility for him. I'm afraid, in the eyes of those noble children who have long coveted the Black King's power, even the prince, He simply doesn't have the qualifications to control the Black King. This Leviathan Empire's strongest machine will only belong to someone in their camp. After the discovery of the new perfect hexagon gem, Morris might be assigned to a new title machine, but that will probably be years later. The order is based on seniority. The future is yours. You still need to polish and refine. We must prioritize the bigger picture. They always act like they are doing it for your own good, naturally taking away the best resources, without giving you any chance. However, Morris is not putting up with it anymore. That day, from the first time he saw the powerful black armor, he knew that it was the strongest magic armor he wanted the most. The Imperial Empire's most challenging to drive masterpiece. The magical armor created by Master Asmid and Sage Poinkar, the Dream Team. Which man wouldn't desire the strongest power? For Morris, this was his wish, and he was willing to pay any price, willingly stepping into the blood-soaked battlefield. After finally advancing to become a hero-ranked knight, they told him that he still needed to wait several years before he could be assigned a title machine, and it wasn't the black armor that he loved. This is intolerable. Master, you will surely acknowledge that I am your owner, right? I am the most excellent and the most suitable person for you. With a fanatical expression, Morris reached out and touched the black armor's simulation cockpit. Like passing through a calm water surface, it was the first time in Morris's life that he entered the interior of a title machine. It was a place filled with amber-colored liquid, resembling a cockpit that brought him back to his mother's embrace. Numerous black wires automatically moved from all directions and connected to Morris's body. The four limbs, heart, and head finally formed a black driving suit on Morris's body. At the same time it began, a lot of electric pulse signals were sent through the black wires, and then washed over Morris's whole body. Compared to the intense flow of these electric signals, the signal flow of the latest Tiger Magic armor is like a little stream. Hold on, Morris. How can you possess the Overlord if you can't even withstand this signal intensity? Morris clenched his teeth. If it weren't for successfully advancing into the hero-ranked field, just enduring this massive signal wash would be a form of torture. No wonder, until now, no one has passed the synchronization test of the Black Overlord. This furious signal is simply beyond what humans can bear. That intensity can already be called information pollution. However, he is different. He is destined to be the master of the Black Overlord. His body can definitely withstand the intensity of these signals. For this, he even sacrificed more than 10 years of his life to gain the ability to travel through material. Each time he uses this ability, it consumes his life force. It can be said that he is truly burning his life to reach the presence of the Black Emperor. Gudong. Morris heard the sound of a heartbeat. It wasn't the heartbeat of a human, but rather the pulsating sound of some ancient creature's heart. Just like in the legends, all title machines are alive, symbolizing the highest scientific technology of the Leviathan Empire. And hearing the heartbeat of a title machine is the first essential element of synchronization. Come on, come on, come on. I'm right here, right in front of you. Oh, Black Emperor. Morris clenched his hands and raised his right hand high, looking up at the enormous figure that appeared in front of him at some unknown time. Without a doubt, that is the will of the Black King, the embodiment of the most powerful knight titled machine. A black shadow, taller than 10 meters, looked down at Morris and inexplicably showed a look of disdain. What? Morris felt the sense of contempt and rejection. The initial feeling of smooth synchronization began to fade away like the tide, as if all the smooth sailing so far had been false. Buzz! 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 A large number of snowflakes appeared on Morris' retinas. The black wires that were originally connected to his hero-ranked knight body began to retract and move away from his body. Don't go! You belong to me. You are mine. Why, King, do you refuse me? I am the strongest knight among all the testers. Morris looked despairingly at the severed neural connections that had abandoned him. Without these black wires extending from the king's interior, any knight dreaming of controlling the magic armor was simply delusional. The driver of the titled machine truly synchronizes their own body with the magic armor. The higher the synchronization rate, the more the titled machine's power can be unleashed. And the measure of the synchronization rate is determined by the quantity and perfection of the connected black wires. Now, Morris has lost the qualification to be connected. This means that the most powerful titled machine of the Leviathan Empire, the Black King, has completely rejected his request to drive it, and doesn't even consider him worthy of being its knight. For Morris, this is a despair greater than dying on the battlefield. Chapter 11:07 Bang. Morris, who was completely soaked, was forcefully ejected from the simulated cockpit. The simulated cockpit, used for testing the Black Overlord, seemed to spit out Morris like a huge piece of garbage and quickly closed. Only Morris remained, with a despairing, incredulous, and trembling figure. Is this a joke? Am I not qualified to operate the title machine? How is this possible? I am a hero-ranked knight, conferred by the Empire. Morris couldn't accept this fact. It was like desperately earning a chance to be with his first love, only to be told it was just a one-sided wish. Not only did he fail to gain recognition from the Black Overlord, but he also had his testing qualifications stripped away. He had never heard of a tester getting forcefully ejected from the simulated cockpit so mercilessly. This means that he is not as adaptable as those who haven't even reached the level of a hero-rank tester in the Black Warrior. How is it possible? His strength is truly at the hero-ranked level. Even if he didn't meet the requirements of the Black Warrior, he would never be so mercilessly rejected. Why? Why on earth? Why? Why, Black Warrior? Why did you reject me? I am clearly the strongest knight. Morris yelled, trying to open the simulated cockpit again, but this time there was no response at all. You have no qualifications to answer so coldly. The Black Warrior completely rejected Morris' requirements to become his knight in this way. No, no, no. Morris couldn't believe, was too afraid to believe. This was the Dark Overlord's response to him. It was me first. I was the first to become a hero-ranked knight. I am the one closest to you. Since the first moment I saw you, I can never look at anyone else again. You are mine, can only be mine. I won't allow you to reject me. Overlord, open your eyes and look at me. Silence, a cold silence. The Black King didn't speak, but he found a way to say no to Morris that made him feel hopeless. The reason is actually very simple. Floating behind the crazy Morris, the black eyes emitted a strange aura. Morris' hero-rank power didn't belong to this world. It was a result of pollution from the abyss. How could something like that be together with the Black King, who represents the perfect bloodline of this world and is driven by perfect gems, and become its master? To the Black King, Morris, who entered the simulation cockpit, was just a big piece of garbage, not qualified to control the title machine. What the Black King craved was a perfect knight. Since the moment Morris accepted the power from the abyss, he could only live on as a disciple of the evil god. Morris is not stupid, nor is he foolish. Otherwise, he wouldn't be one of the few elite knights in the Leviathan Empire with the power to freely paint his magic armor. However, because he cared too much about the Black Overlord, he kept deceiving himself and believed that he was the only one who was special. Now he finally understands the mistakes he has made and the dark path he has taken. But if he doesn't do this, what else can he do? Being weak is the biggest sin. Without forming a contract with the power of the abyss, he won't even have a chance to approach the Black Overlord. The last time he saw the Black Overlord, this Imperial's strongest title machine was still in the development stage. It was an encouragement ceremony for the young officers of the Empire who were expected to become the strongest knights of the Empire in the future. In that ceremony, he stood in the last row of the Knight Order. In the front row were the princes of Emperor Ludwig XII. In the middle row were the influential nobles of the country, the offspring of aristocratic families, and branches of the royal family. Finally, there are the young knights who were considered the future elites of the Empire. The seemingly equal ceremony actually divided people into different social classes from the very beginning. These knights, who come from small noble families, can never obtain a titled machine in their lifetime unless they miraculously advance to become hero-ranked knights. If he hadn't made a pact with the Abyss, those high-born nobles wouldn't even need to pretend, and they would have no chance of coming into contact with a titled machine. In the strictly hierarchical Leviathan Empire, if one wants to climb up and compete with the children of those high-born nobles, they need to work harder than anyone else and achieve something that no one can ignore. The Emperor of the Empire is a wise ruler who has promoted the development of science and technology. However, even he cannot solve this social class problem. According to reason, a talented knight like Morris would have the opportunity to marry a noblewoman and be accepted into the upper echelons of society if he can succeed. It would take several generations for his descendants to have a chance to compete on the same level as the children of other highborn nobles. However, Morris didn't want to wait anymore. Ada, I know it's you. Because of you, I cannot gain the approval of the Black Overlord. But I don't actually hate you. After calming down and understanding why he would never be acknowledged by the Black Overlord and even be despised, Morris's eyes were filled with despair. Finally, he attempted to make another deal. If I sacrifice the remaining years of my life and only have 1 year left, will it grant me the ability to control the Black Overlord? A large number of black particles gathered in front of Morris, gradually forming an X symbol. In the depths of the abyss, this represents no. In other words, even if Morris sacrifices almost all of his life, it is not enough to make a deal with the Abyss and gain the qualification to control the Black King. Morris was mentally prepared for this answer a long time ago. Just obtaining the power to sneak through shadows and briefly shift through matter has consumed 11 years of his life. To gain the qualification to control the Black King, it would mean completely deceiving the recognition mechanism of the Black King. It seems that even sacrificing his entire life would not be enough. A deal with the Abyss is so cruel and heartless. So, let me ask a different question. Is there any way for me to obtain the Black King? Morris' expression became increasingly determined, as he was prepared to give up everything. A large amount of black particles gathered again, forming another symbol. It was in the shape of the letter O. This symbol represents can or able to. Upon seeing this symbol, Morris showed a hint of hesitation on his face. He knew that if he chose this path, he would be doomed to an endless cycle of suffering. However, did he have any other choices? Chapter 11:08 No. From the moment he made a pact with the Abyss, there was no turning back. Just to acquire the ability to move through shadows and traverse materials, he had sacrificed 11 years of his life, all in the hopes of gaining the recognition of the Black King. Now he had failed. Failure always comes with a price, just like how one dies when they are killed. I will come back. You are mine. No one can take you away. Reluctantly, Morris looked at the silent Black Overlord, then walked towards the wall without looking back. He ignited his own life once again and disappeared silently into the armory. Behind him, the massive Black Overlord stood tall in the darkness, as if nothing had happened. However, for Morris, everything had changed. It was the first weekend after the assessment of the Sia Kingdom's Divine Era Tower and the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. The long-closed Divine Era Tower finally opened its doors. In order of their excellent performance, the first batch of members from the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, allowed to take a break from the tower, began to appear in groups of 3 or 5. I was not worried that they would never return. Once they became members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order and truly experienced the intense training with the divine artifacts, no one would want to go back to the past. This was true for the Leviathan Empire's Princess Knight Order, the Wilderness Bride group from the Tribal Union, as well as the young ladies from various noble worlds. The common girls who managed to grab this chance to become members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order were even more excited. It was their only opportunity to change their own destinies. Even the young girls who were originally spies and intelligence agents infiltrating the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order desperately seized this opportunity. Spies and intelligence agents were secretive and dark beings that would never be seen in the light. On the other hand, Being a formal member of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order was an honorable profession that anyone could proudly boast about. Not to mention the magical environment resembling the Divine Era, which could only be found in the Divine Era Tower, as well as the Divine Artifact that everyone loved. Without I needing to take action, after successfully completing the entry assessment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, the intelligence agents who willingly surrendered themselves to the nuclear explosion queen were filling up her study room. In the end, it was Ayn who voluntarily told them that she didn't mind if they spread the information from the Divine Era Tower. On the contrary, her purpose in establishing the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order was to prepare for a new era. The treasures sealed within the Divine Era Tower were protected by the power of Lord Silver Dragon and were impossible for anyone to steal. This brand new Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order was created by Ayn for the future of this world. Everything was for the promise with the great Lord Silver Dragon. Now, the first stage of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order's historical mission has been perfectly completed, and an even greater future is about to come. At this moment, the girls who walked out of the ancient Divine Era Tower began to feel somewhat uncomfortable with the thin magic in the air. Compared to the magic concentration that even the fairy butterflies in the Divine Era Tower were satisfied with, the free magic in the air of the real world was really too low. It was like suddenly entering a dry desert from a lake filled with water ripples, and it was really difficult to practice in such an environment. Fortunately, these girls were not here to train, but to relax and enjoy their vacation. The first holiday of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order began like this. This is also Yunshi's first time stepping out of the tower and onto the bustling streets since he arrived in this world. Beside him was Adley, holding a teddy bear. In normal situations, with their extraordinary looks, just walking down the street would cause a great commotion. But Adley is not only a princess with the bloodline of the traditional Virgin Palace, but also an extremely rare traditional Divine Era warlock on this continent. By using a disguise spell, the two of them appeared as ordinary brother and sister in the eyes of others, seen everywhere. The brother is mature and steady, looking about 18 years old. Even with the disguise spell covering him, he naturally emits a feeling of closeness, like a big brother from the neighborhood. The sister is innocent and adorable, only reaching her brother's waist in height. Holding a cute little yellow bear, she always sticks close to her brother, calling out, "Brother! Brother!" Queen Ayn, seeing this scene from the high tower, expressed her desire to enjoy the holiday with Lord Silver Dragon. Unfortunately, she is just too busy, as the one in complete control, who suppresses all who oppose her with absolute strength as the nuclear explosion queen. And having just established the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, she wishes she had 3 brains and 6 hands to use. Just the files piled up on her desk waiting for her signature are as tall as half a person, and those are only the ones selected by the secretaries that she must handle. How did she not know before that being a queen of a nation is so busy? On the streets of Sia Royal City, there was no trace of the recent war, and people's faces were filled with smiles. It seems that the days when the disaster of a country being destroyed is imminent, as if the storm is coming, have never existed. No matter which street you walk on, you can see large paintings of Princess Ayn, now the queen. In the painting, Ayn has a side that Yunshi doesn't recognize at all, with a crown on her head and a huge staff in her hand, as if she were the supreme ruler, looking down on everything. Come, come, come! Freshly baked half-body statue of the queen, made by younger Marshall brother, now only 10 silver. Take it home. The memoir of Nuclear Explosion Queen, a recently published novel. Absolutely true. It's a shame not to read it. Only 100 copies. Act fast if you want to buy. In the shops, various paintings, statues, souvenirs, and books about Queen Ayn were all very popular. The buyers were not only residents of Sia Kingdom, but also many people who came from faraway lands. The selection of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is a great event involving almost all the forces in the continent. Although not many people took the underage girls who joined the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order seriously, the connections with Queen Ayn were invaluable. With the presence of nuclear explosion Queen, Sia Royal City, which was once in a state of war, no longer closed its gates, and even the nights became unusually lively. The temporary residences of the various embassy groups stationed outside Sia Royal City have started to develop into permanent residences, and there is even a trend of becoming small villages. Chapter 11:09 Yuan. She curiously looked at this exotic town. Although its level of civilization could not compare to Sky Sword God's domain, humans were indeed similar. Dessert, artwork, statues, and books. The restaurant, which exuded a strong aroma of grilled meat, presented the unique civilization style of Western God's domain. Occasionally, fully armored knights could be seen, but there was no sign of any wizards. Just looking at the scenery on the street, it's like a society made up purely of ordinary people, without any magic or extraordinary powers. Of course, that's just an illusion, because in the center of the royal city stands the tall tower of the Divine Era, where the fantasy fairy butterflies have been living since the Divine Era, and there are beautiful gemstones scattered in the magic-filled lake. After walking for a while, Yunshi suddenly stopped because he heard a very familiar sound. Recommended treats that even Her Majesty the Queen loves. Today it's cream bread, freshly baked cream bread. Bread. Yunshi's life occupation at the hero level is a bread baker. Here, there are fellow bread bakers too. I wonder which level they are? Big brother, is that bread your bread? Adley grabbed Yunshi's hand, looking at him with eager eyes. The rumor about Queen Ain loving cream bread is a recent bit of news that has come from the Divine Era Tower. As the most famous queen of nuclear explosions on the mainland, as soon as this news came out, all the cream bread in the royal city sold out. The price of fresh cream and flour needed to make cream bread tripled overnight, and there was still not enough supply. It seems that anything related to that nuclear explosion queen can sell well. Even the sensitive mainland merchants have started selling goods related to this magical queen to the north. Now, even the Leviathan Empire has a large number of people who admire Ain. They spontaneously formed the Nuclear Blast Queen Party. With the identity of a forbidden spell warlock in the Divine Era, at the age of 14, the power to destroy the Empire's first magic army legion overnight using the ultimate forbidden spell. All these factors combined to create a true legend. The establishment of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order adds more color to this legend. If at the beginning some people thought that the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order was just a whim of the Queen, when powerful races like the Troll Clan, Lamia Clan, and Mermaid Clan, originally part of the Leviathan faction, joined, everything changed. Saramanda, the sub-chief of the Troll Clan, made a breakthrough and became the second hero-rank member of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order after Queen Ain. It made countless people shudder. This is a troll, and moreover, a hero-rank troll who also possesses a god weapon. Even during the war in the Divine Era, it is an undisputed monster. One person can sweep away an entire legion. Not to mention, now is the time when magic tide is weakening. Throughout the whole continent, including the other races, there are probably less than 50 hero-ranked individuals. Even the powerful Leviathan Empire, known as the #1 on the continent, only has 13 officially recognized hero-ranked knights. And Queen Ain destroyed 3 of them with a nuclear explosion. A hero-ranked troll? Oh my goodness, this is a powerful weapon, even during the Divine Era War. Now, who dares to say that the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order is just for show? Just the troll equipped with a god weapon alone is equivalent to an elite army of 3,000 people. Not to mention, there are also the Lamia clan and the Mermaid clan from the Ocean Crown race in this Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order. Unknowingly, this Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order, which was originally mocked, has become an enormous presence that no country can ignore. Queen Ain, who personally established this Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order using the power of divine artifacts, has gained fame throughout the whole continent, and even started spreading to other continents. The current Ain has the qualification to stand on an equal level as the Emperor of the Leviathan Empire, and some even call her the #1 queen on the continent. The creamy bread she loved to eat became a food that was included in everyone's cookbook from the noble families in the palace to the common households. After all, whether we talk about the queen's favorite royalty or the layered mango cake she likes to eat, the common households with a little bit of financial strength can still afford to buy this kind of creamy bread, even if its price has increased a bit. Being able to eat the same thing as the queen, who is as powerful as a nuclear explosion, is an honor for the people. They didn't know that the Queen Ayn was not just eating ordinary creamy bread, but a golden creamy bread made by a world-renowned hero-ranked baker. That is a magical food that even the hero-ranked assassins of the 10 Leaves Alliance have to carefully preserve and consider as strategic resources. A few days ago, with just one bite, she conquered the picky queen's tongue and stomach, becoming the mastermind of the bread lovers. At the same time, it also made little Princess Adley unable to eat her favorite bear biscuits anymore, causing her to betray her sister on the spot and join the bread lovers. Probably not. She bought a creamy bread that is said to be the queen's favorite as a reference and took a bite. He rated it based on the standards of a bread baker, even though he used to be a commoner. The softness of the bread, 7 points, it seems to be slightly overbaked. Sweetness, 5 points, the quality of the cream has some defects, probably due to the milk source. Overall taste, around 6 points. The bread meets the minimum standard but doesn't qualify as a fine product. It's at a level similar to when he was around 11 years old. Adley also took a small piece to taste and quickly showed a worried expression. After trying the works of the hero-ranked bread master Shi, this one is really not delicious. That kind of fragrant and sweet taste, it's the best bread Adley has ever had, almost melting in the mouth. Brother! Adley looked at Shi in front of him with moist eyes, his small tongue licking his lips like a hungry little puppy. Don't be too picky. Shi felt like he was committing a crime as he secretly took out a cream bread with a golden hue from his embrace. This taste is the most perfect golden cream bread that he developed by using his childhood friend Hua Hua as an experimental subject and improving it. And it's the only fourth-order bread formula he has mastered. In a way, this was one of the greatest achievements in his life, a perfect culmination of his 16 years of existence. Oh! Adley took a big bite of the soft, sweet golden cream bread with cute white traces at the corners of her mouth. Chapter 11:10 The shopkeeper who sold the freshly baked cream bread to she wrinkled his nose, looking puzzled at the lingering scent in the air. He was familiar with the smell of his own bread, but he could swear that he had never smelled such a delicious aroma in his entire life. Just a hint of that lingering scent in the air made their appetite soar. Did their bread have this unique characteristic? Do you have bread that smells this good? If you do, I'll take one. Just when the shopkeeper was filled with doubts, a girl with long silver hair walked up to him, making a nostalgic expression and wiggling her nose. Graceful figure, calm and composed demeanor. The skin looks as white as if it were bathed in ice and snow. The shopkeeper opened his mouth in amazement. Where did this princess come from? She looks just like a magical creature that walked out of a fairy tale world. I'm sorry, but we probably don't have bread with that scent in our store. The shopkeeper racked his brain and remembered. The customer who bought the bread earlier seemed to have secretly given a piece to her sister. Unfortunately, the West bakery where he worked couldn't make bread with that kind of scent. He had never smelled such a captivating aroma from bread before. Perhaps only the chef employed by Queen Ayn, who lived in the Divine Era Tower, could make bread of this level. It must have used a large amount of precious ingredients. He couldn't even imagine how bread, a food, could be made with high-quality ingredients. Is that so? What a pity. The silver-haired girl looked a bit disappointed as she gazed at the bakery, then shook her head. The shopkeeper blinked, and he was sure he didn't blink, yet the silver-haired girl had disappeared without a trace. It was daytime, but the shop assistant felt a chill down their back. He must have encountered a ghost. Shi, who was holding Adley's hand, turned around after leaving the bakery and looked back at it from several hundred meters away. Just a moment ago, there was a brief magical disturbance in that direction. It seems like this world is not completely immune to magic. There was probably a warlock who appeared just now. In a world where mages have disappeared, only a few warlocks remaining in this world can maintain some of the magical inheritance. Although warlocks cannot choose their own magic, they can only use the fixed magic inherited in their bloodline. Among the members of the Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order that Yunshi encountered, Ein and Adley are legitimate warlocks from the Divine Era bloodline. They are said to be descendants of the Virgin Palace in the 12 constellations of the Divine Era. In addition to that, the underage girls of the Mermaid clan also possess special spellcasting abilities unique to their clan. Unlike the human magic system, they use chanting to harness the world's magic and unleash the power of miracles. In Lamia's team, the priest Miraz is a rare combination of magic and martial skills, practicing both talented magic and close combat abilities. As for Saramanda, the troll clan doesn't need things like magic. Yunshi was somewhat concerned about the fleeting magical waves, not knowing why it gave him a sense of DJVU impossible. Thinking about what world he was in now, Yunshi shook his head. Meyer used her activated Stargate to travel across countless light years, arriving in the completely isolated world of Sia's world. In this world, there is nothing familiar to him. He is undoubtedly a complete stranger to this world. It's just that, why is there always an indescribable fluttering in his heart? It's like something has happened. But what? Yunshi closed his eyes, trying to find any trace of clues. If only the power of the stars could still be used, but unfortunately, with Meyer's complete silence and the huge consumption when activating the star travel, Yunshi's star power is now at an all-time low. Whether it's the ultimate god weapon, the star wings, or the ability to release seeds, they are temporarily sealed away. Otherwise, Ein and Adley would have already had Yunxi's seeds planted in them. The battle surrounded by his 4 ex-girlfriends was a huge turning point in Yunshi's worldview. Truly encountering his 4 ex-girlfriends, even if it was only a projection of their powers, made Yunshi realize how terrifying and despair-inducing that power was. The power of creation is so unreasonable and does whatever it wants. They are his ultimate enemies. This crisis clearly showed him that if he couldn't become stronger, as long as he was caught again, it would undoubtedly be a dead end. Meyer's star travel power is not easy to use. In order to save him, she even exhausted all of her own power, and it's likely that she won't be able to recover for a long time. The only known way to restore the power of the stars is to complete the Trial of the Stars. The task of collecting Sia's world 12 constellation gods' weapons must be completed as soon as possible. In a club secretly established by young officers in the distant Leviathan Empire, Morris, who is considered one of the future titled machine drivers, raised his glass and drank heavily. "I don't want to be human anymore." The sudden declaration left many young knights, centered around him, with bewildered expressions. What's wrong with Morris? Among these young knights, who come from minor nobility or even the lower class, Morris is the person everyone admires. He broke through the brink of life and death in battles against monsters like trolls, becoming the Empire's recognized 10th hero-ranked magic armored knight, with a bright future ahead. Although there is no title machine yet, it's just a matter of time before the Empire gets hold of this kind of power. In their eyes, Morris's life path is smooth sailing, making him their idol. The path Morris is walking is also the path they want to walk. Now, Morris's sudden words of, "I won't be human anymore," leave the young knights who idolize him at a loss. If not being human, then what else can one be? I know, just like me, all of you are longing for power. Dark particles start appearing in Morris's eyes. Abyss is a strange power to this world. Sia's divine sword, the Leviathan monster, these are the 2 most powerful sources of power in Sia's world. Human mages gained Sia's wisdom, while the monsters of the Leviathan gained the vitality of the beast. This kind of power from the Abyss has never appeared here before. But now, everything is going to change. Chapter 11 The Abyss is approaching, and the humans of this world must make a choice. The third faction, apart from Sia and Leviathan, is about to be born here. He, Morris, the apostle of the abyss, the follower of the evil god Ada, is about to take on the task of spreading the power of the abyss. Only in this way can he afford the price and obtain his desired Black King, becoming the strongest Black Knight in this world. Do you desire powers? Morris raised his glass, his eyes no longer showing any sign of drunkenness. In the whisper of the abyss, he fell. Perhaps all of this was destined from the moment he heard the murmur of the abyss during his battle with Saramanda. I want it. Morris, what have you discovered? You suddenly advanced to hero ranked. Do you have any special methods? It's impossible for the young knights gathered here not to be curious about Morris' sudden advancement. Everyone here who can gather in this club are elite knights of the Empire's young and promising generation with similar qualifications. Among them, several people's skill in piloting the fierce tiger-type magic armor even surpasses Morris. When they spar with each other, Morris' ranking in this club is only around the top 5. Who would have thought that following the envoy team to that so-called Holy Silver Dragon Knight Order selection, Morris would suddenly make a stunning breakthrough, crossing the chasm between ordinary and hero ranked in one go. In the modern era of weakened magic tide, the difficulty of advancing to hero ranked is truly a despair-inducing probability, especially compared to the magic-infused divine era. The path of the mage is completely cut off, and although the path of the knight still exists, it requires various resources and the quantity of body-strengthening drugs is skyrocketing. Even 10 times is considered insufficient. Without a large amount of magical factors in the air, many of the medicinal herbs and plants that were common in the divine era have become extinct. This makes the advancement of the knight's path even more difficult. Even the wealthy and powerful Leviathan royal family cannot afford the same amount of resources as the divine era. They only allocate these rare resources to a few young individuals with the best chance of becoming hero ranked. Being of humble noble birth and common knights, it is nearly impossible for them to obtain the necessary medicinal herbs even if they show exceptional talent. Advancing to hero ranked is almost an impossible task without the assistance of those medicinal herbs. Everyone is curious about how Morris managed to achieve this without any resources. His talent is obviously not at the same level as Princess Roland, who is considered a once-in-a-century candidate for advancing to hero ranked. The Empire's first Princess Knight is recognized as the surefire candidate to advance to hero ranked. No one could have anticipated that Morris would be the first to achieve it. Yes, I do, said Morris, looking at his companions. The members of this Future Knights Club are all elite knights who are striving to become future title machine knights, just like him. When they formed this club, they were full of hope for the future. They are the drivers of the latest generation of magic armor and represent the seeds of the Empire's future. They once firmly believed that they were the future of the Empire, the strongest knight regiment to ride into continental wars. Ah, how innocent you are! You have never seen true power, nor faced the indescribable things in the abyss. You know nothing about power. But to obtain this kind of power, you must pay a price, Morris said as he put down his own glass, looking provocatively at his former comrades. Do you have the determination to risk your lives for the power of advancement? Even if it means death, we must move forward continuously. Beneath your feet lies an endless abyss. For a moment, the entire club room fell silent. The young knights, like Morris, aspired to stand out, to gain wealth, power, or simply to pursue a path towards greater strength. They looked at Morris with fiery eyes. Morris was familiar with that kind of gaze. How many times had he looked at it in the mirror while washing his face, seeing that crazy and persistent gaze? In order to gain power for their own goals, with an intense gaze at any cost. What they lack is only a path, a clear method to obtain power. Being too young, they don't know that equal exchange is always the truth of the world. If you want to get something, you must necessarily give something. They cannot obtain various medicinal resources monopolized by the royal family, and cannot create medicinal baths like the knights of the divine era using precious herbs. Even if they dare to challenge the limits between life and death, In this period of magic tide decline, the possibility of advancing to hero rank is almost zero. They are not afraid of death, but afraid that even gambling their lives won't give them a chance. Is what you're saying true, Morris? Someone quickly asked, panting heavily. Could it be, Morris, that you have discovered ancient heritage? Someone thought they had found the truth, as only the heritage of the divine era can significantly increase the chances of advancing to hero rank. Morris, can we really do it? More people chose to believe because Morris was right in front of them, the best example. Believe. Believe me, Morris. I will bring you a brand new path of advancement. Morris didn't lie. This was opened by his own hands, a road to endless abyss. He made the choice in order to obtain the Black Overlord. The abyss gave him power and offered enough temptation. He looked at these young knights whose eyes were shining, just like he saw himself not long ago. He knew they wouldn't refuse. The temptation was too great, too irresistible for them, who had severed the hero rank path. I will be your guide, showing you a whole new world. We will change this era and become the founders of a new era. All you need to do is believe in me wholeheartedly. Believe in the path I have created. I promise you will gain the power you desire and become true heroes. Morris, with his passionate speech and the fact that he advanced to the hero rank stage without a large amount of rare resources, successfully conquered these young knights, who came from small noble families or even commoners. Soon, someone raised their hand to indicate their willingness to acknowledge Morris as their leader. In the Leviathan Empire, where the rule of obeying the strong is paramount, it was only natural for hero rank Morris to become the leader of everyone here. So, let's say it together. Morris took a deep breath and uttered that magical name. Ada, Ada, Ada. Chapter 11:12 Deep Underground Tunnel. The dusty gate has been there for thousands of years, standing quietly. On the murals of the corridors on both sides of the gate, the most epic war of Sia's world is depicted. The last golden ancient people, with a human army as vast as the tide, challenged the ruler of this world, the giant dragon. The dragon's wings cover the sky, its flying figure as if to overshadow the sun. Their breath falls on the ground. The scorching dragon's breath burns the land, turning hundreds and thousands of human knights into ashes in an instant. Any giant dragon has the power to suppress a whole country. According to ancient standards of power, they are all monsters of country-destroying hero rank. Even without any cultivation, just through natural growth, they possess race values far beyond those of humans. There are no obstacles to surpassing hero rank. Just like the giant that disappeared, this creature is loved by Leviathan and is even seen as the direct descendant of Leviathan, the sky beast. The only ones who can rival these dragons are the descendants of Sia, who are known as the Golden Humans, the offspring of the Creator God. In the mural, someone raises the holy sword and unleashes a breathtaking beam of light. Someone wields the holy spear, piercing through the wings of the soaring dragon. There are even gigantic giants over 50 meters tall, dressed in ancient armor that is far from the modern magic armor style, engaging in hand-to-hand combat with the falling dragons on the ground. These are the last giants, without any surviving members of their kind. The blood of dragons, humans, and all the different races on the continent is spilled between the heavens and the earth. The number of human deaths is 1,000 times more than that of the dragon camp. Yet the outcome of the war remains undecided. It isn't until the owners of the holy sword and holy spear fall from the sky and the 50-meter giants kneel on the ground that the war appears to be coming to an end. Humans will be defeated, cannot see any hope. At that time, the dead bodies suddenly started standing up. This scene was not recorded in the official history books of the divine era. The dragons looked in astonishment at the dead who had already risen again. The final stage of the grandest war in the divine era began. Humans and other races who died on the battlefield, regardless of their side, would stand up again and attack the Leviathan faction. The deceased sword master, the deceased spear master, and the deceased last giant. Finally, several enormous monsters burst out from the midst of the mountains. These beings were not naturally born creatures, and they could not even be called living beings. They seemed more like creatures created by humans, distorting the laws of nature. Each of them possessed power surpassing that of ordinary dragons. With the help of these weapons, humans finally defeated the dragon and forced the arrogant dragon to leave the land. At the end of the mural, the remaining golden humans looked sadly at the massive weapons surrounding them, softly saying something. Thus, the mural came to an end, and humans ushered in a new era, embracing the glorious dawn of the divine era. However, the price was that all the golden humans, descendants of Sia, perished. The leaders who had protected and guided humanity for thousands of years were buried deep within the underground cemetery. If the story ended here, it would be truly wonderful. Unfortunately, this is not the end of the story, but only a comma. The golden ancient people, sleeping in the underground cemetery, didn't find true rest. Because the period of magic tide decline had arrived, and the civilization of the divine era had reached its end. The underground cemetery, originally built for golden humans, became the last safe haven for the descendants of the Silver Era. The underground ruins, where the ancient golden people are buried, became the last remaining land in the continent with some magical power. The highest mages, afraid of losing their magical power, hastily retreated here, bringing with them almost all the treasures of the divine era, preparing to establish a new underground kingdom here. However, their story could not be written on this mural, because they are not the masters of this place. Living humans cannot become the masters of the underground cemetery. Here belongs to the world of the dead. Here exist enemies that the highest mages of the divine era never expected to encounter. Choosing to continue living on the surface, the mage lineage transformed into scholars who passed down knowledge, thinking that the mages of the divine era could smoothly enter the underground cemetery, waiting for the past of the period of magic tide decline. There's no such thing. All the humans who enter the underground cemetery die. There are no living people here. Wanting to pass through the period of weakened magic by sleeping, waiting for the arrival of the era of overflowing magic, is just a fantasy of the divine era mages themselves. From the day it was built, the underground cemetery has had an owner. Why has the whole world changed, but only the underground cemetery still has magic remaining? That's because this is a special resting place. The owner here doesn't allow outsiders to disturb the rest of their loved ones. Anyone who enters the underground cemetery will be killed without mercy. Anyone who dishonors the dignity of the underground cemetery will be killed without mercy. This is the last sacred place in the world, the tomb of the golden humans. War is no longer needed. Humans have obtained the crown of the continent, and everything has come to an end. After several failed attempts and total destruction, no country dares to have any ideas about this place anymore, even after the long years. Today, the silent and death-filled corridor welcomes guests once again, with not even a speck of dust. She walked through the mural corridor that depicts the grandest battlefields of the divine era and approached the long-sealed doors of the underground cemetery, for who knows how many years. Silver hair cascaded down to her waist, and her calm gaze seemed to see through all the secrets of the world. Just standing there, she was like a breathtaking painting. A halo of magical dust slowly spread out behind her, perfect and unlike humans. Why, only now? The empty gate spoke, representing the will of the master of this underground cemetery. Sorry, the coordinates here have changed drastically. I made you wait for so long. The silver-haired figure gently reached out her hand and pressed it against the door that had been sealed for millions of years. The silver patterns gradually spread and soon illuminated the entire ancient door. Finally, I can sleep. This dream, it's also time to end. These children, I'll leave them to you. I've been guarding them for so long. I'm starting to lose sight of who I am. Right or wrong, I can no longer choose. Some tired voices gradually became low, like a guilty prisoner. It's not your fault. You did very well. I will take care of what comes next. This world, Leave it to me. Chapter 11:13 Boom. The gates of the underground cemetery, where the last wizards escaped during the Divine Era, were opened once again, revealing its outline. The entire underground cemetery is divided into 7 underground levels, with a complex architectural style and volume that doesn't match the productivity of the time. Even the entrance hall is over 50 meters tall, with pillars so large that 10 people couldn't wrap their arms around them. In the center of a massive square spacious enough to accommodate 100,000 people for exercises stands a gigantic figure. He is the guardian of the first level of the underground cemetery. The first level was built so immense because this guardian fought fiercely against the dragons during the Divine Era War, going to extremes to avenge his own kind. However, the last giant has long since passed away. There are no living humans within the underground cemetery. The last and only owner of the underground cemetery brought an end to the war between the Divine Era and the dragons, as well as the unrealistic fantasies of the wizards from the Divine Era. The people called this powerful death wizard by the title the King of Undead. He was the most terrifying wizard in the human world. However, no one knew who exactly this King of Undead was or which family he came from. He seemed to suddenly appear in the Divine Era and the war against the dragon race, and decided the outcome of that war. The huge weapons he controlled, along with the massive army of undead awakened from the battlefield, completely changed the outcome of that war. Even the mighty dragon race had to retreat in a sorry state under the siege of the endless army of the dead, and didn't even have time to bring back the bodies of their own people. After that, this mysterious and powerful wizard began building the underground cemetery and never appeared again in human history after its completion. The figure with silver hair walked up to the body of the giant, towering over 50 meters tall. Buzz! 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 The dusty old-timer began to flow once again. The once dead giant started to awake again, but something was completely different. The underground cemetery had no living creatures, whether they were originally here or came later. The King of Undead, who built this miraculous structure, collected only dead things here. Click, click, click. Countless red and black patterns spread across the black iron armor worn by the final deceased giant. The body, which had been sleeping in this relic since the Divine Era, was slowly coming back to life. However, it was not coming back to life, but only waking up. The true final giant had already died in battle long ago. What exists here now is the black iron troll statue made from the body of the last giant and forbidden necromantic techniques. It is the guardian of the first level of the underground cemetery. So sleepy. What time is it now? Daddy, did you wake me up? From the body of the giant named Sue, a voice as innocent and cute as a little girl's could be heard. Ah, yes, it's time to get up. The silver-haired woman looked at the troll statue that slowly started moving with gentle eyes. I knew it. Daddy would never forget. I'm really strong now. I'm the best princess. Please give the order. Guardian of the first level of underground cemetery, head to the battlefield. The princess, who had once lost her energy in the war, raised her enormous arms, eagerly anticipating her own mission. No, there's no order for war yet. The silver-haired woman lightly jumped and stepped onto the palm of the colossal golem, beginning to connect its core. Ah, it's so itchy. Daddy, being with Daddy again is the best. The princess, who had passed away, let out a joyful laughter, just like when she was alive. Finally, I could be with Daddy again. This time, I will definitely defeat all the enemies easily. After sleeping for so long, now I'm full of energy. It seemed like the giant wanted to demonstrate its power, as it tightly clenched its right fist, and then threw a punch. The punch, which was 10 times faster than the speed of sound, completely shattered the air in the underground cemetery, causing a spine-chilling explosion. That is a modern magic armor that surpasses the power, speed, and explosiveness of any other armor. It possesses a terrifying power even greater than that of the last giant when it was alive. Despite being deceased, it possesses a power even more frightening than when it was alive. It has no weak points or vulnerabilities, and it relentlessly keeps on fighting without ever giving up. This is the terrifying nature of the undead, something that even made the dragons feel fear. Checking. The equipment is perfect. Daddy, are we really not going to conquer the world? The princess who had passed away happily placed a silver-haired girl on her shoulder and hummed a little tune freely. I have a little lamb, so white and cute. Big bad wolf. Oh, big bad wolf, please don't come or I'll smash you. Let's go to the second level now. The silver-haired girl gave her first order as the successor. The second level? But I don't get along well with that aunt. This command made the previously happy past princess somewhat unsatisfied. Being a guardian of the underground cemetery, she really doesn't like the guardian of the second level. Because that guardian is someone who loves to do anything for power and is very reckless, and also happens to be her elder. I need her power. Not just her, but all the guardians of the underground cemetery will be awakened this time, the silver-haired woman said, looking at the runes on her hand. There are a total of 6 runes, representing the 6 guardians of the underground cemetery, who are the main culprits in the destruction of the Divine Era mages. Now, only one of the 6 runes is lit up, representing the revival of the first-level guardian, the last giant, Sue. Got it, Dad, but don't forget, I'm the best one, she said. When it comes to enemies, I can handle them on my own. The proud princess clenched her fists. After putting on the heavy black iron armor, this body's weight surpassed 10,000 tons and had an unlimited strengthening power from the earth. As long as she's standing on the ground, she won't lose, no matter what kind of opponent she faces. Among all the guardians, she is the supreme ruler with the strongest physical attacks and defenses. As long as I'm with Dad, there's nothing to be afraid of. This time, no matter who the opponent is, they're destined to be crushed. However, what kind of opponent will awaken all the guardians of the underground cemetery? I'm really curious. After sleeping for so long, it's time to stretch my legs. Chapter 11:14. In the long, silent underground cemetery, footsteps rang out, shaking the earth and sky. Standing over 50 meters tall, the giant clad in black iron armor pushed open the door leading to the second level of the underground cemetery. Behind the door, a deep and mysterious passage appeared, leading to an unknown destination. Just looking at this passage itself gives people a cold feeling of almost being sucked in. After millions of years, this passage still looks the same as when it was first built, without any trace of differentiation. Everything seems to be frozen in the river of time. This is also why the highest mages of the Divine Era considered the underground cemetery as the most important last resort. Because this is the only known large-scale relic that still contains a large amount of magic during the period of magic tide decline. The entire underground cemetery is not just a simple vertical structure, not even just one type of terrain. It is a century-long project of unimaginable scale. It is said that the architectural scale of the entire underground cemetery was built with a 1,000,000-level residential system, like a heavenly paradise after death. The first layer, which is closest to the surface, appears to fit the impression of an underground cemetery. The huge plaza was built as a hub to gather forces. The strangeness of the underground cemetery begins to show from the second level onwards. Walking through that long corridor, the mist in the passage became thicker, even spreading with a light blue fog. Boom! Boom! The departed princess hesitated, standing in front of a large door leading to the second-level area. On the first-floor gate of the underground cemetery, there were engravings of human hero epics and the figure of the last giant. As for the second-level gate, it depicted a vast blue sea, where a colossal creature was gracefully swimming. That was the figure of the second-level guardian, the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast. Yes, the second level of the underground cemetery was a maritime region. Despite being deep underground, there existed an underground sea here, which became a part of the underground cemetery. Guarding this place is a sea dragon that is all blue in color. just like the last giant wearing black iron armor. This sea dragon is also wearing armor with a green mark on it. Its length exceeds 100 meters, and it is a specialized war weapon used for underwater combat. This is something even the current ruler, Leviathan Empire, has not encountered. In the final battle of the Divine Era, this Emerald Sea Dragon beast attacked from behind the Dragon Clan, cutting off a large amount of logistical support from the Sea Tribe to the land camp. It was one of the key factors that led to the victory of the humans in the war, which lasted for several years. Its ruler is War Dancer, the most skilled guardian in the underground cemetery when it comes to naval battles. When she was still alive, she was an elder in the bloodline of the deceased princess, even though they were only 5 years apart in age. The long silence was broken, and the enormous creature sleeping in the underground sea opened its eyes. "Oh, King, is it time for another conquest? Can I once again showcase my power?" This is why the deceased princess disliked her younger aunt. She used to be the kingdom's most beautiful dancer, always capturing everyone's attention. She was more eager for glory than anyone else, proud of her own beauty. Even in death, this determination didn't diminish even a bit. Rather, it intensified. In the war between humans and dragons, she stood out prominently, overwhelming the black iron giant who served as the vanguard. "I smell the scent of war, Your Majesty. The mighty Emerald Sea Dragon beast has been waiting. Enemy dead. We are victorious. Dancer, awaiting your summons." The emerald-colored radiance shimmered as a massive pillar of water rose up into the sky. Covered in gleaming armor, the sea dragon beast with its streamlined body emerged from the depths of the sea, roaring and cheering. The nearly transparent steel armor is completely different in style from the black iron giant of the past princess. With its verdant patterns and translucent material, this seems more like armor from a future era, making it hard to imagine it was created during the Divine Era War. The materials used in Leviathan Empire's magic armor are like a big and rough military tool compared to these green armor pieces, which are like works of art. The second guardian of the underground cemetery, the ruler of the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, War Dancer, has returned. "Thank you for your hard work. I need your power." The silver-haired figure looked at the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, who was proudly showing off its power with gentle eyes. The second curse mark on her snow-white hand was illuminated as this huge creature returned. Along with that, the flow of magic in the whole underground cemetery became more active. The remaining magic here is a heritage that has been stored from the Divine Era to the present, a resting place for all the golden ancient people. The King of Undead, who rules over this place, sealed the underground cemetery with his own body as the core, not allowing anyone to disturb the rest of the deceased. For this reason, he created 6 guardians of the underground cemetery, the strongest war weapons that determine the fate of humanity. "Everything shall obey your will, my king." "I'm ready," said the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, curling up its body. There were no living creatures in the ocean of the underground cemetery. Only the sea dragon had been sleeping here. The long sleep had made the once lively dancer bored, even with bonfires and parties her favorite things. Now, she could finally step onto the battlefield again. "Let's dance again, with the most beautiful moves, bringing the deepest fear to our enemies. Destroy them, crush them, defeat them." Weakness is an unforgivable sin. Only power can change destiny, and that's what the War Dancer pursues. Being a subordinate of the king, fighting for the king, was her greatest obsession even after death. Unlike the innocent little princess, who seemed unaware that she had already scattered into fragments, she accepted the reality of her own death more than anyone else. Because of how she died, it was much more tragic than the little princess who died from just being weak and sick. She was drowned alive, thrown into the sea by those crazed mobs who lost their sanity due to the war. They kept throwing stones at her until she had no strength left to resurface and sank into the sea, struggling relentlessly to appear above the sea surface, only to be despairingly pushed down over and over again. Before consciousness completely plunged into darkness, She begged for strength more than anyone else, desperately wanting to stay alive. Unfortunately, no one came to save her until she sank into the depths of the sea in despair. The helpless dancer who couldn't fight, the unrecognized princess, the captured songstress who could only sing songs, and the guardians of the underground cemetery, all met with tragic deaths while alive. Chapter 11:15. This is the world of the deceased. Live beings, step aside. Only the king of undead who rules the underground cemetery can awaken the guardians here and make them fulfill their original contract to fight for the great king. Continuously awakened the first level's guardian, the black iron giant. After the green sea dragon of the second level's guardian, the silver-haired figure didn't continue to advance towards the third and fourth levels. The guardian of the third level seemed to sense something and let out a faint sigh from a distance of 1 level. That sound, so beautiful that it made people's ears relax, had an enchanting charm that could rival that of a mermaid princess. Enchanting songstress, along with the Phantom of the Opera, is the true name and arsenal of the guardian of the third level. As one of the subordinates of the king of undead, she would not refuse the king's request. Unlike the past princess who listens to everything her father says and the war dancer who has a fanatic pursuit of power and glory, enchanting songstress doesn't enjoy fighting. Even though her power is enough to cause catastrophic events and can ignore the opponent's physical and magical defenses, it has the instant death effect. Now, just a little more. Looking at the 2 glowing spells on the back of her hand and the murky air inside the underground cemetery, the silver-haired woman shook her head. It's not that she doesn't want to continue awakening, but the magic pulsations of the underground cemetery have become unstable. The power weakening period doesn't have any impact on the underground cemetery. It only diminishes the effect on the underground cemetery that buries the golden ancient people in a special way. The remaining magic in the underground cemetery can now only provide full support for the 2 guardians to fight. The awakened third-level guardians, enchanting songstress and opera house phantom, can't appear in this era yet. Looking further down, the guardians of the 4th, 5th, and 6th levels are also recovering. And in the deepest hall of the 7th level, the master of the underground cemetery is waiting for her visit. However, the first phase of the plan can already be launched with the black iron giant, the departed princess, and the emerald sea dragon beast, the war dancer. The name of the underground cemetery will appear again in the human world. Everything is for the future of this world. This is the cause created from a distant era, and she is the fruit that comes to collect that cause. Wait a moment. As the awakened black iron giant and the emerald sea dragon beast are placed in the second-level sea area, the figure of the silver-haired woman gradually dissipates into particles of light in the air. Daddy is the best. The princess who had passed away reached out her arm and touched the sparkling particles in the air with a face full of satisfaction. It seems like the king's power has completed something. War dancer inside the emerald sea dragon beast wasn't so sure. As deceased beings, they don't have the human sense of sight. The way they observe the world is through their soul's perception ability. In their eyes, the king of undead who rules over them has a much stronger mental power than before. As the creator of the underground cemetery guardian, the king of undead naturally carries the characteristics of death and darkness in their aura. It is a trait that belongs to the dominator of the undead. Of course, Daddy has become even stronger. I believe in Daddy's power. In the eyes of the childlike past princess, everything about her father is the best. In this world, there is no one who can rival Daddy. Haven't you seen those arrogant dragons? They were all eventually defeated by Daddy, and even their bodies couldn't be recovered, becoming one of the forces of the underground cemetery. The dragon tomb located in the 6th level is one of the spoils of the glorious period of the underground cemetery. Even the emerald sea dragon beast, which is the guardian of the 2nd level, was transformed from the corpse of a deceased sea dragon. As long as Dad makes a move, no matter who the opponent is, they can't resist. This is the unbreakable truth since the divine era. Yes, I also believe in the power of the king. In the end, this world belongs to the underground cemetery. The moment the dead return is the brand new dawn of this world. War Dancer smiled, and when she was still alive, she had imagined what a peaceful world would look like. The era she lived in was the most brutal time of war between humans and the Leviathan faction, with death, slaughter, and piles of corpses of different races and humans everywhere. In that era, the weak were destined to perish. Even if they could perform the most beautiful dance or sing songs as enchanting as mermaids, they couldn't make them survive. The King of Undead gave them a new life, and for them, the ruler of the underground cemetery is the only supreme king in the world. Fighting for the king is the most honorable mission for all underground cemetery guardians. The deepest area of the underground cemetery, a lonely and desolate grand palace, with the holy spear and holy sword placed on the icy thrones on either side. The owner of the underground cemetery, dressed in dark armor with a deep red cloak, greeted their guests, with their head hidden beneath the helmet. Welcome to Sia's world, the sacred and beautiful flowers. Unfortunately, I am unable to stand up, unable to welcome you. The King of Undead, who personally changed the outcome of the war between humans and dragons, built a vast and boundless underground cemetery. It would not be an exaggeration to call them the guardian of humanity. Their voice gave an impression of burning ashes. In front of them was a dying bonfire, with only a faint light the size of a matchstick remaining. A silver-haired woman emerged from the flames, gently gazing at the King of Undead on the frozen throne. You've worked hard. Leave all the upcoming tasks to me. Your mission is over. Within the crevices of the King of Undead's helmet, the last soul flame flickered and emitted a deep voice. Please take good care of the guardians here. During their life, they were unable to find happiness, and even in death, they cannot find peace. At least, you can inherit my identity and power, making their existence meaningful. My time is ending. Too tired. A silver-haired woman approached the exhausted King of Undead and lightly touched his skull. Originally, I thought this was a very easy task. I don't belong here. My identity is fake. My name is fake. Everything is a lie. But being with them, having my own friends, having my own lover, I gradually started to like this world. Now, I can no longer make decisions about this world. It's ironic. When I came here, I really hated this world. You came. It's so wonderful. Chapter 11:16. It's a story from a very, very ancient time, far away from the present era. In a certain organization, an ambitious young person took on a task. The task was to invade a special little world that kept moving and had valuable resources. He saw this task as a stepping stone to advance in his life, and he bet everything on it. With the equipment and support tools provided by the organization, he used a weak point that was prophesied when this world passed through a certain node of endless God's domain and rushed into the inner part of this closed world. His mission was to fix the coordinates of this little world and open a passage to the outside world, making it a base for the organization. The ultimate goal was to establish a star bridge, to build a tower in this ancient and closed world that leads to the endless God's domain, making this world one of the organization's bases. This was a glorious and grand mission, an action that could completely change the destiny of this world. Unfortunately, there were significant flaws in the mission right from the start. The world's rejection of outsiders was far more terrifying than the organization had anticipated. Before he could fulfill his mission in this world, he was met with a deadly attack. His equipment and tools for transforming the world and precious items for organizing support were mostly destroyed in this attack. This is the world's will hostile towards the invaders. He had to give up his own body and use the technique of reincarnation to be reborn as a member of the original inhabitants of this world. Because he used technology beyond the level of this world, he quickly regained much of his power after reincarnating. The various peculiarities he displayed convinced everyone that he was the extremely rare heir of the ancient bloodline, the chosen one who brought back Sue's world. Even the true owners of the golden bloodline have unwavering belief that he is their child. All the secrets of this world gradually unfolded to him. With technology beyond the understanding of this world, he crossed the boundaries of life and death and acquired the title of the King of Undead. However, he can never go back, not even have any means of communication. Using only the resources of this world, it is impossible to build a star bridge. He can only be alone, waiting for the possible support in infinite time. Originally, he thought it should be like this. For this reason, he started planning to build the underground cemetery a long time ago. It was his own base, the main camp for exploring the stars in this world. What he couldn't imagine was that this plan received the support of all the golden ancient people. They encouraged him, believed in him, and saw him as their most important child. They were willing to do anything, even start a war with the powerful dragon race, without hesitation. Over a long period of time, he gradually blended into this world. He became friends, comrades, and lovers with the original golden humans of this world. He watched them die, some naturally and others in battle. Without exception, they entrusted their bodies and everything they had to him. How many years passed until the final golden humans told him that everything was going smoothly and the humans were about to seize the continent from the dragon race in a decisive battle? He finally wavered. As an observer of this world, the builder of the Star Bridge, and the failure of his mission, he should not have interfered in the progress of this world's civilization, let alone join the war between civilizations. However, when he saw his last friends and lover go to the battlefield just to help him seize the continent from the dragon race, allowing him to carry out a doomed plan, he couldn't help but intervene. He used magic and technology that didn't belong in this world, creating war tools that didn't exist before. He cheated in the war between humans and dragons, changing the outcome of the battle. He is not a qualified observer. By interfering with the progress of this world's civilization, he was punished and even altered the pulse of the world's breath. The decline in magical power in this world came earlier because of his decision. The divine era of human civilization, created by him and his friends and lovers, faced an inevitable doomsday. He also lost the concept of immortality and could only enter the underground cemetery, never to see his favorite starry sky again. But even if given another chance, he would probably make the same choice. In a distant era, he met the indigenous people of this world and disguised himself as one of them, being seen as a lucky child with inherited genes from generations past. He had his own mother and never thought about getting in touch with the indigenous people here, but he became a member of this world. Here, he had benefactors, friends, and a lover. Now, they all have passed away, leaving only the underground cemetery, which represents the world's cultural heritage, still standing beneath this land. Here is the last and most glorious monument of his life. After everything has come to an end, he returned here, starting a long and boundless wait. Having used the important world props and treasures given by the organization without permission, he, who created the underground cemetery guardians, doesn't expect to be forgiven by the organization. What has kept him going is a belief, a desire to make this world better and redeem the hope of a future that cannot be seen. Now, he has finally waited. The organization never gave up on this world with special resources and has once again calculated the weak points of the world's power, sending new executors. Therefore, his mission has come to an end. From now on, there are no regrets in his life. It's true, I've been waiting for so long. If a few hundred years pass, maybe even the last flame in this bonfire will go out. Now, he can burn once again, letting his remaining soul power release its final warmth. Throughout his life, he made many mistakes. The arrogance of youth, the ignorance of the power of the world, attempting to unveil the veil of this world with the organization's technology and tools, only to end up defeated. After becoming a member of this world, he had a blind confidence, thinking that he could do anything and change everything. Why is it that, despite being so willful, everyone still loves him and supports his unrealistic plans? Probably because they are too foolish. They are so foolish that even though he has shown so many flaws, they still believe in him and treat him like their own child. You golden humans, truly a hopeless bunch of idiots. The king of undead, lost in memories of the past, smiled. The last remaining power within the black armor transformed into a small flame and was thrown into the bonfire. Everyone, I've arrived. Chapter 1117 Crash. The bonfire in the deepest part of the underground cemetery's palace made a crisp sound. Like being thrown high-quality firewood, the flickering flame, which was like a candle in a storm, suddenly became brighter. The size of the flames also changed from the size of a matchbox to the size of a person's torch. In contrast, the undead king sitting on the frozen throne no longer made any noise, and his previously lifted head slightly lowered. This alien explorer, loved and protected by the golden humans of this world, finally completed the final journey of life today. In fact, he had already suffered an irreversible fatal injury during the final stages of the Divine Era's Great War. If it weren't for the special environment of the underground cemetery, he wouldn't have been able to cling to life until now. However, with the arrival of the successor sent by the organization, he can finally close his eyes. His body that had already died long ago, because of promises made to friends, benefactors, and loved ones, transcended the bondage of time and constantly watched over this silent cemetery. Thank you. In front of the silver-haired woman, there was the inheritance left behind by the king of undead who had finally passed away. Even during the Divine Era, this god weapon armor was considered beyond classification, and it was a strategic god weapon with a designated sole successor. Whoever puts on this armor automatically gains ownership of the underground cemetery and inherits the title of the king of undead. This is a gift prepared by the previous generations, the king of undead, for his successor, and it is also his expectation. The underground cemetery is an incomplete, yet-to-be-built structure. He has been waiting and waiting for the hope that this world can break free and set off towards the endless sky of stars. That is the shared wish of him and his past friends, benefactors, and lovers. In order to fulfill this wish, humans didn't hesitate to wage war against dragons, seize control of the continent, and collected countless resources that have piled up in this underground cemetery. In the late Divine Era, the mages who fled here brought even more treasures, making the underground cemetery the most powerful force in the whole Sia's world. Your sacrifice will not be in vain. The bonfire's flames illuminated the snowy face of the silver-haired woman. Her figure once again turned into particles of light, penetrating into the armor of the deceased left by the king of undead. This god weapon is a special existence that surpasses all constellation gods' weapons in this world. It is a nightmare god weapon that even the dominant race, the dragon race in this world's pyramid, fears greatly. The king of undead, wearing the armor of the deceased, can endlessly resurrect the beings who died in war. Even if their heads are pierced and their hearts are torn out, the deceased don't feel any pain. They only continue to move forward and kill. In the final stage of the war between humans and dragons, humans managed to pile up the bodies of numerous dragons with the sheer number of their race. Then, under the control of the king of undead, these dragons stood up and joined the human camp as skeletal dragons and zombie dragons. The dragons couldn't bear such a huge loss anymore, so they chose to give up the throne on the land and retreated into the ocean. The undead king became the biggest nightmare for the dragon race and the greatest hero for humans. However, this part of history was not recorded in the official history of humans, and even humans themselves forgot about it. The undead king, who distorted the progress of civilization in this world and brought the period of magic decline earlier, returned to the secluded underground cemetery with the bodies of his friends, benefactors, and lovers. As a result of using immature forbidden spells without authorization, the undead king suffered a backlash and could never return to the sunlight. In the long years that followed, he could only wait for a faint hope. The unnatural creation he brought to this world, the bonfire, grew weaker and weaker until this moment, when the undead king used himself as tinder to ignite the flames representing the power of souls once again. Spreading the fire, that was the undead king's final mission. With the remaining power of his soul, he ignited the torch of hope for this world one last time. He wanted to change and save this world. He couldn't complete the task as an invader, nor did he do it after becoming the king of undead, so he could only hope that his successor would accomplish it. White particles of light penetrated into the armor of the dead, and the pitch-black armor that had sat on the frozen throne for millions of years began to emit a faint glow. Boom! Within the bonfire, countless sparks flew, illuminating the deepest palace of the underground cemetery. Here, it's not just the king of undead alone. On the enormous walls, pillars, and ceilings, there were figure after figure wearing mage robes. Most of them looked at the throne where the king of undead was with astonishment in their eyes, kneeling there like prisoners awaiting judgment. Among them, there were over a dozen powerful individuals wearing red mage robes with golden embroidery on the edges, standing out from the crowd of black-robed mages. The red robes symbolized the power of the highest mage in the late divine era. To be able to wear red robes with golden embroidery represented that these mages had once stood at the pinnacle of this world and were the rulers of the entire Sea's world. Their combat prowess is definitely not inferior, even when facing the dragon race. Unfortunately, they escaped to the underground cemetery, which was a place where the friends, benefactors, and lovers of the king of undead were buried. It was a miraculous structure built by this outsider to return to the stars beyond this era. The magic here is completely under the control of the king of undead. The origin of the magic lies in this bonfire and the bodies of the golden humans buried here. No matter how powerful the red-robed wizards were, even those who could cast forbidden spells, they couldn't even produce a fireball in the underground cemetery without the permission of the king of undead. Therefore, the red-robed wizards all met a tragic end. They had intended to dominate the underground cemetery and seize it as a base for future return to the surface. But in the end, they all became decorations in the palace of the king of undead. After thousands of years, everyone had long since died and couldn't die anymore. However, due to the unique environment of the underground cemetery and the king of undead's ultimate power over the undead, these wizards had turned into a different kind of existence. The wizards dressed in black robes became powerful skeletal wizards. The wizards dressed in red robes descended into eternal liches. This was also one of the gifts prepared by the king of undead for his successor, an undead legion that could conquer the world, possessing the terrifying strength of the divine era. As the silver-haired woman put on the undead king's authoritative armor, the black and red-robed sorcerers, who were forced to become decorations in the underground cemetery, began to awaken from their long death state. Chapter 11:18 Sleeping in the deepest palace of the underground cemetery, sealed as decorations on pillars by the previous undead king. The sorcerers within the walls opened their eyes. The first thing they did was lower their own heads. "We offer our loyalty to the Supreme King. You are the ruler of death, the only king of the undead in this world. Forgive us for our past impoliteness, great king." This is not only loyalty, but also a pledge. The once powerful mages, now transformed into undead beings, finally realized how ridiculous their plan to control the underground cemetery was. When facing the dark figure on the frozen throne, their proud spells had no resistance whatsoever. That is the legendary hero of the true divine era, the immortal myth. Fortunately, they are also descendants of the divine era bloodline. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to become the masters of the earth in the late divine era. The king of undead didn't completely destroy them in the end, but chose to transform them using the special environment of the underground cemetery. Everything is for the distant future that the king of undead eagerly waits for. At this moment, the undead mage core of the underground cemetery officially resurrected after the end of the divine era. They still don't know that the king of undead has changed, and they still think that the ancient hero of the divine era, the original builder of the underground cemetery, is inside the dark armor in front of them. The silver-haired woman who inherited everything from the king of undead didn't mean to correct this point. Are you ready? A slightly hoarse voice, unable to distinguish whether it is male or female, young or old, as if it has experienced the passage of a long time. Thank the king for his grace. We have already surpassed the boundaries of life and death. Even during a period of weakened magic, it is no longer a desperate situation for us. With the help of the unique environment in the underground cemetery, the entire Divine Era mage team that transformed their race finally solved the greatest issue troubling all the Divine Era mages. Why did they resort to any means necessary to escape into the underground cemetery and prepare to wait for the arrival of the magic tide's peak from here? Because this place is special. It is the weakest in the whole world when it comes to being influenced by the magic tide. Perhaps it is because it holds the bodies of the oldest humans or because of the unique, sealed nature of the underground environment. But in any case, the massive ruins known as the underground cemetery still contain a large amount of residual magic, according to the Divine Era. Now, as they revive Sue from death, they can feel their own spell-casting abilities returning. Originally, the Divine Era mages needed magic to cast spells, but during the period of magic tide decline, even staying in the air can feel suffocating. Accustomed to the feeling of magic elements being omnipresent in the air, entering the period of magic tide decline truly feels excruciating. Even living in a tomb is 1,000 times better than being under the sun. For the common problem of magic depletion among the wizards of this divine era, the previous generation's king of undead performed a swift and clean operation. Since living is so difficult, then let's all die. The words of the deceased are not affected by any symptoms of magic depletion. After losing their flesh and blood, they will no longer experience this symptom. At the same time, using forbidden techniques that don't belong to this world, a part of their souls is extracted and infused into the dwindling bonfire, serving as prepared firewood. If he is truly approaching the state of running out of oil and the organization's successors haven't arrived yet, these Divine Era wizards can come in handy. Fortunately, the successors will arrive hundreds of years before he reaches the final limit, so the prepared firewood doesn't need to be burned so quickly. After all, they were once the highest representatives of power in this world, and they still have some usefulness for the organization's plans. In order for them to still have combat effectiveness during the period of magic tide decline, he personally transformed them. The current Divine Era Wizard Corps, the Black Robes, have collectively changed into Grand Necromancers, while the rare Red Robes have transformed into higher-ranking Liches. Everyone's soul flames are kept in the bonfire smuggled by the organization, becoming an inseparable asset of the underground cemetery. From the moment they woke up, the once proud Divine Era mages understood that they were no longer human. Most of the mages were fanatics, but this group of mages who came up with the crazy idea of occupying the underground cemetery during the period of magic tide decline were the craziest of them all. In the late Divine Era, when they realized that the world's magic tide was irreversible, they clearly divided into two factions. The group that fled into the underground cemetery was the strongest among the mages at that time, and their actions were also the most insane. Regarding the fact that they had become undead, the vast majority of them didn't see it as a problem. After witnessing the master of the underground cemetery, the king of undead, who had been alive since the Divine Era until now, and just a single glance from him could render anyone unable to cast spells, many of them even started to like their current state. Well, that's just how mages are. Their ability to cast spells returned, although many spells in their spell list completely disappeared, especially the ones related to light. However, in their place, various undead spells emerged as if they were directly engraved in their souls. The withered hand, the pale fist, Sue, the dead person, the white bone battle armor, a series of death spells, even the Divine Era had few people involved in, completely filling the gap left by the disappearance of light magic. In a way, they were actually stronger than when they were alive. The skeleton archmages, no longer bound by flesh and blood, only have the substance called soul fire left in their heads. As long as this part isn't destroyed, their limbs and bodies are just decorations. As for the transformation of the red-robed mages into liches, it is even more terrifying. Being able to wear red robes during the Divine Era represents that they are all hero-ranked mages. The king of undead of the previous generation took special care of these rare units. He personally divided their soul fires and placed their main soul fire in bonfires to preserve them. This means that as long as the bonfire in the deepest part of the underground cemetery is not destroyed, the red-robed liches are truly immortal, even more perfect than the regeneration ability of the troll clan. Even if they encounter the ultimate forbidden curse like a nuclear explosion, the liches at most can only retreat to the bonfire in the underground cemetery to rest for a while, and they will soon be able to return to the world. This is the legacy that the king of undead prepared for his successors, an undead army of powerful mages. Whether it is for conquering the world or building bridges to the stars, it is very useful. After understanding the greatness of the king of undead, the red-robed liches confessed their admiration. They made a promise to the dark figure, pledging loyalty to the great and supreme leader. Chapter 11:19, Sitting on the Majestic Frozen Throne. The newly appointed king of undead examined the assets and current state of the underground cemetery, which was left behind by the previous king of undead in a written testament. Wishlist. First wish. Please complete this unfinished tower and connect it to the pathway of endless God's domain in this world. Second wish. Take my human remains and the bodies of my friends to the sun for a burial ceremony, so that we may return to dust under the sun's radiant light. Third wish. There are weapons that I created during the war in the underground cemetery, using the organization's resources and technology. I apologize for any inconvenience caused to you, the successor. I hope you'll treat them well. They were all poor children who died on the battlefield, holding on to different hopes and dreams. They fought hard to stay alive, but unfortunately, that era was too cruel for them. I hope you will take care of them and inherit my role. Some of them considered me as their father, while others saw me as the highest ruler. In truth, I am just an ordinary person who is weak without a plan. Without a plan, I am incapable of accomplishing anything. Many things end up in a mess. The construction plan for the underground cemetery is 63% complete. However, it cannot proceed further due to a lack of important materials and resources. We need this world to advance to a higher level of civilization in order to continue. The weakening of magic tide is not the end of the extraordinary powers of this world. It is a sign that the world is entering a new stage, giving birth to different civilizations from the era I am in. The resources that Divine Era lacks can perhaps be completed by this world itself. The key is Sia and Leviathan's powers, which are beyond what I imagined. The reason for the initial plan's failure is now clear. The will of this world is interfering. I don't have much time left. Please, help me. It can be seen that when the king of undead wrote his final letter, his consciousness started to become confused, unable to remain completely clear. Putting his last remaining existence into the bonfire is the final thing this failed king can do. At this moment, the blazing bonfire is a testament to his final will. Next, we have the information about the layers in the underground cemetery, left by the king of undead. The guardian of the first layer is a black iron giant, carrying the soul code of the departed princess. She is a pure and innocent princess of the kingdom, unaware of the hardships of the world. She grew up carefree and is the youngest and most innocent among all the guardians. In her kingdom, there is a king who became mad because of magic. He is also one of the most famous human heroes of the Divine Era. In his pursuit of the strongest magic, the king committed numerous insane crimes, one of which was using his own daughter and subordinates as test subjects. The departed princess is one of the sacrifices offered by her own father to the netherworld, a perfect experiment for death magic. As the ultimate user of death magic, the king of undead received these souls, and the departed princess is the one who evokes the most sympathy. Because she never believed that she would be sacrificed to the netherworld, she even thought that behind the dark armor of the dead was her own father, who always loved her. That innocent soul somehow perfectly matches with the final giant who died on the battlefield, without any rejection. As one of the last secret giants among humans, he bravely died in a fierce battle against dragons, even using the secret technique of burning his soul. In the final war of the Divine Era, the fallen princess became the new core of the last giant. Wearing a black iron armor, the immortal giant achieved remarkable victories, slaying double-digit numbers of dragons. If it weren't for the king of undead forbidding the recording of the existence of undead soldiers in history, she might have been one of the most legendary heroes among the human camp. The second layer guardian, the verdant sea dragon, equipped with a soul codenamed War Dancer. Like the past princess, she belonged to the royal family. However, due to the exposure of the king's crimes of researching necromancy, which led to the rebellion of the citizens, the dancing princess, as one of the royal family members, was captured and executed by the royal fleet at that time. The dancing princess herself was unaware of the king's necromancy research. She voluntarily went to visit the kingdom's navy, but ended up being captured by the rebellious navy and publicly executed. The execution method was to throw her into the sea, and the audience who had applauded her shortly before threw debris at her, eventually drowning her. Because she sank into the sea, she had an extraordinary obsession and longing for weapons that could freely move in water. Eventually, she perfectly merged with the experimental sea dragon beast weapon. During the Divine Era War, she blockaded over 70% of the Leviathan faction's marine transportation lines, becoming an unknown hero of human victory. She desired power more than anyone else and enjoyed acting alone. The third guardian of the opera house, known as the Phantom, with the soul code name Enchanting Songstress. She was the greatest singer on the continent before she died. She was good friends with War Dancer, and their bond was even stronger than friendship. After War Dancer was executed, the kingdom fell into a rebellious war. No one listened to the singer anymore, and the opera troupe they had formed together went bankrupt. The war engulfed the land. The singer, who was born a commoner, hid in an abandoned tower in despair. She lost all meaning in life and her best friend. In the end, she starved to death in the tower. Unique traits, incredibly contagious spirit, possessing the strongest voice in the underground cemetery. However, she must never fall into a state of madness, as her singing would indiscriminately attack everyone. She longed to be loved by someone, but she lost the person she loved the most. Once, she believed the world was beautiful, but the world betrayed her. She couldn't face such a world and would rather choose to self-destruct than stay in a world without the War Dancer. If the singer and the dancer fought together, they could unleash unimaginable power. The singer alone could match the royal family of the Mermaid clan in strength. The fourth guardian, known as the Rift Space Dragon, with the soul code named Kingdom's Shield. The leader of the Kingdom Knights, who protected the capital city during the rebellion, ended up being executed. He was once the strongest shield of the kingdom and the former top knight of the continent. Even after death, he never gave up on his belief to protect the country. He possessed the strongest aura ability among all the Guardians and wielded a weapon prototype made from the body of the previous generation's Dragon King. Among all the Guardians, she had the most stable mentality, closest to that of a normal human. Her weapon, the Rift Space Dragon, was a rare air combat dominator in this world. Chapter 11, 20. The fifth level Guardian, codenamed Cheelin, was a highly self-disciplined weapon designed by the organization. Its soul code named the Lost Twin. The talented girl group of the Capital City Knights, the next generation candidates for the Kingdom Knights. The older sister was imprisoned in the Great Forest by the Mad King and subjected to various cruel tortures until her death. Her dying wish was for her younger sister to be saved. The younger sister died on the edge of the forest. Although she had already been rescued, she returned in order to save her older sister. However, she was killed by the guards before she could see her sister one last time. The two of them were inseparable, so a special twin system was created for them. The two people had very scary natural abilities that could control a large number of strange creatures. They were being tested to see if they could be the core of a unicorn. However, because they didn't have enough resources, their body, called unicorn, was not able to be fully built. The unique driving system for twins was closed, and they didn't participate in the war during the Divine Era. The sixth-level Guardian, Apostle of the Gods, had a soul with the eternal codename, Witch. It was supposed to be the ultimate weapon that this world could accommodate. But because there wasn't enough information, the weapon was not completed. Information, unknown. Background, unknown. Experience, unknown. When it was discovered, it was already a dead body, and the cause of death was unknown. Suspected visitors from another star, their body structure had obvious features that didn't belong to Sia's world. The knowledge of the other world held by the king is believed to come from the witch. The body developed for him currently only exists in the design drawings and needs future developers to provide enough resources to complete it. The seventh-level Guardian, the King of Undead, with the soul code named the Lost Traveler. Compared to the exceptionally detailed previous Guardians, the Guardians of the Underground Cemetery on the 5th and 6th levels only have approximate weapon codes because they are still in an unfinished stage. Especially the Guardian of the 6th level, there is almost no information available. Even the King of Undead from the organization has not found any corresponding data. Black Iron Giant, Emerald Sea Dragon Beast, Opera House Phantom, Rift Space Dragon, Kirin, Apostle of God. From the way they named it, it is evident that the King of Undead was very fond of fantasy stories. The war weapons he created were filled with romantic colors. Even the central cores, which were originally named as Core 1 or Core 2, as standard practice for weapons, had their names chosen based on their past memories. So, that's how it is. Well then, it's time to start working. The newly appointed King of Undead awakened the first and second layers of Guardians and arrived at the deepest part of the underground cemetery to complete the succession ceremony. He put down the documents in his hands and sat on the ancient frozen throne, raising his head. Now is the time to bring this place back into the daylight. Activate Tower to the Sky. With a command from the King of Undead, the underground cemetery, which had been dormant for millions of years, began to shake violently. Originally built by extraterrestrial visitors, the King of Undead, it was not a burial ground, but a tower. According to the organization's design, as long as it had enough power, it could directly penetrate through the barriers between Sia's world and the sky, leading to the tower in the starry world. Codenamed Babylon Project, it was a miraculous construction that connected heaven and earth, and humans and gods. Unfortunately, even with the help of the golden ancient people throughout his life, he was unable to complete this plan. The progress permanently stayed at 63% after the end of the Divine Era War. He wasn't lazy, it's just that his time wasn't advanced enough to complete the Babylon Project. The Sky Tower, which was supposed to connect the sky and the earth, ended up sinking underground and becoming the underground cemetery, burying itself and the golden humans. It wasn't until today that the long-forgotten Babylon Project started again. I will help you fulfill your wish. This is also a test for myself. Countless complex rune data flowed through the new King of Undead's eyes. Even though she didn't bring a single piece of paper from the outside world, she, who inherited the identity and power of the King of Undead, had an incredibly strong confidence. Even though this era was in the period of magic tide decline in Sia's world, this tower with the code named Babylon would surely stand at the center of this world. Today is the day when the former underground cemetery makes a sound to the outside world. Underground cemetery, level 1. It moved. Our cemetery can actually rise up. Princess Past looked around at the continuously changing walls, more excited than anyone else. Truly, an incredible power. War Dancer rarely agreed with the princess's viewpoint. The earth is splitting apart. The glorious underground cemetery, shining brightly, is moving towards the sky. The Sky Tower, an ultimate fantasy that no one has ever accomplished before, even during the Divine Era, is now rising from the ground. Using the original underground cemetery as its foundation, a tower with a streamlined structure measuring over several kilometers appears in the once deserted mountains. Compared to this tower that seems to pierce the sky, any known large buildings in Sia's world are so tiny. This tower is not built for people to live in, but it is a miraculous symbol resembling a myth. The tall monument-looking shape of that thing makes it seem proud and distant from the world. The countless symbols carved on it, as well as the epic stories from the Divine Era in this world, are treasures for all humanity. The entire shape of the tower is like a painting from a long, epic story, reaching unprecedented levels of artistry and mystery in this world. No need to ask, this is the masterpiece of the King of Undead, and only the King of Undead, who has had millions of years and has experienced the Divine Era, can depict such a poem. He is telling future generations what happened during the Divine Era in this way. The existence of war weapons, which have always been hidden in history books, is now fully displayed to the world for the first time. This is because he believes that when the underground cemetery sees daylight again, these weapons will also have a brand new future. There is nothing to fear anymore. You will have a better master, and you will fight for the Babylon Project once again, surrounding this successor. My children, buzz! Buzz! A huge current surged out from the ground, lighting up countless lights that didn't belong to the civilization system of this world, making the ancient tower, the Sky Tower, shine brightly enough to illuminate the entire sky at night. Today is the day the Babylon Project starts again, a day worth celebrating so grandly. The tower that advances towards the sky is the obsession of the King of Undead for this land and this world. Boom! In the central region of Sia continent, where the legendary underground cemetery ruins are located, a huge tower is growing and getting taller, as if it wants to pierce through the sky. The entire architecture of the underground cemetery is changing. The King of Undead has been preparing the Babylon Project for millions of years and is now accelerating the resurrection of Su. Although only 63% was completed in the end, the main part of the tower can be considered finished. What remains is the part related to the starry sky. At this moment, the tower that reaches thousands of meters is still rising. The radiance emitted from its body is still clearly visible even hundreds of kilometers away. On that night, many people woke up in the middle of the night. At first, most people thought it was an earthquake, but when they ran out of their houses and saw the towering beam of light in the center of the continent, they were left speechless. What is that? Am I still dreaming? That distance, it's the ruins of the Divine Era Kingdom. A tower. Even ordinary civilians who didn't know much about the Divine Era knew that the center of the continent was the most densely populated area with Divine Era ruins, and it was recognized as an unclaimed land. Because of the unruly experiments conducted by the mages in the late Divine Era, the environment there was extremely eerie. There had been adventurers who were not afraid of death exploring inside, only to find themselves cut in half without even realizing what had happened. The terrifying natural disasters caused by out-of-control magic, unknown bizarre creatures, and large-scale extinction of life possibly caused by nuclear experiments turned the once prosperous Central Mountains into a forbidden place that people avoided at all costs. Even Ludwig XII, who aimed to conquer the world, never thought of including this place in his territory. We should be thankful that those monsters didn't come out. Every year, just the military expenses to deal with these monsters are enough to bankrupt a small country. Who could have imagined that one day, the power of the Divine Era would announce its return in this way? When a towering tower, possibly over 10,000 meters high, appeared, Ludwig XII of the Leviathan Empire received a report. In reality, the empire's capital was not far from the gathering place of the mages. Ludwig XII could see the pillar of light shooting up to the sky just by opening his window. First, the kingdom produced a pure divine era bloodline with inherited powers from previous generations. And now, even buried relics have emerged? What on earth is happening in this world? Ludwig XII, who was recently just one step away from ruling the continent, grabbed his hair and shouted in anger, "Call Asmod and Poinkar, we need an emergency meeting tonight." Similarly, the capital of Sia Kingdom, which is next to the Empire, also saw the enormous beam of light. Is this the power of the ultimate magic of the divine era? Ein, who has pure divine era warlock lineage, looked astonished at that location. In the central area of the continent, there stands the largest mage relic, which used to be the most glorious proof of the divine era mages, surpassing dozens of mage towers. However, weren't those ancient mage towers all collapsed due to the erosion of time? Besides the terrifying underground cemetery, I haven't heard of any other intact mage relics in that area. Sister, Adley is a bit scared. Let's go find our brother. Adley grabbed Ein's hand, looking worried. As the possibly most talented divine era warlock of this era, Adley seemed to sense something. Similarly, Yinshi also noticed. What is this? Compared to Adley and Ein, who are confined to this world, Yunshi's expression is truly dumbfounded. Because no matter how he looks up, looks down, looks left, looks right, this tower that almost shows the projection to the whole Sias world, its style is the divided form of endless God's domain, the Seven Towers. Moreover, it is also one of the popular retro styles in Western God's domain, the genre of the God Tower. Who exactly built such a thing in this secluded world? It wasn't until Adley and Ein ran to Yunshi's side that the answer began to unfold. A towering figure sitting on the frozen throne in pitch-black armor, from the sky in the center of the continent, spoke to the entire Sias world. "Good evening, everyone." The voice was very hoarse, as if it hadn't been used in a long time, carrying a worn-out breath. "This is the underground cemetery, and I represent the ancient will, making this declaration to everyone here. A world where the dead and the living coexist is about to come. By the name of the King of Undead, I will wake the dead of the past, gather the strength of the entire continent, and open the door to the starry sky. No matter which country or family you come from, Underground Cemetery welcomes you. I will open the gate and accept all forces willing to serve Underground Cemetery. For this, I will dispatch my subordinates to visit the rulers of all countries. A new era is about to come." After proclaiming it to the entire Sia's world, the King of Undead's figure disappeared in the light, replaced by two other figures. "Kingdom, I'm going to the kingdom." The towering black iron giant raised its hand and let out a tinkling laughter, manipulating the giant to strike a pose with both hands raised towards the sky. "Then, I'll go to the Empire." War Dancer didn't argue with past princess. Anyway, no matter which outcome is chosen, it will be the same. Even during the Divine Era War, the war weapons created by the Supreme King were invincible, not to mention the current era where the average strength is constantly declining. It looks like we need to prepare to greet the guest. This guest doesn't seem friendly at all. Yunshi sighed as he looked at the black iron giant, over 50 meters tall, moving towards the Sia Kingdom on the screen. The mission to collect the 12 god weapons hasn't even started yet, and we already encountered such an opponent. It's impossible to complete the mission easily. That person, the King of Undead, is a true ruler of the Divine Era. It is said that he has the golden bloodline passed down through generations, not someone like him in disguise. The fact that he could build a tower surpassing the era proves his greatness. Yunshi even had a suspicion that he obtained knowledge from the endless god's domain. According to normal architectural principles, building a tower over 10,000 meters high is an impossible task. It doesn't look like something from Sia's world at all. With Lord Silver Dragon here, we won't be afraid. Yes, Sister is the queen of nuclear explosions. With one nuclear blast, we can send that big guy flying. Chapter 1121, that forbidden spell of nuclear explosion. It's not something you can just use. Ayn looked at Yunxi, who had a calm expression, with some unease. She hadn't figured out how to explain this big lie to the world yet. So, Big Brother can definitely solve this problem, right? Adley's thought process was simple and straightforward like this. It's impossible for a 9-year-old child to consider world affairs and such. Yes. This time, Ayn answered with great certainty. She had absolute confidence in Lord Silver Dragon. And this confidence was not a false lie. No matter how powerful that giant is, she firmly believed that Lord Silver Dragon is invincible. Even if the owner of the Sky Tower is the legendary king of undead, it can't shake her belief. Sky Tower, underground storage on the 3rd floor. After the main structure of underground cemetery rose to the sky as a towering tower, the underground part didn't disappear. The original 7-level structure of underground cemetery still exists as the underground part. The black iron giant and the verdant sea dragon gathered in front of the door on the 3rd floor, waiting for their companion's response. The guardian of the 3rd floor of underground cemetery, a friend of War Dancer, and the favorite singer of Past Princess. We are about to set off. Please wait a moment. As long as we gather enough resources, we will definitely make it possible for you to come out too. War Dancer looked at the still closed door with gentle eyes. Behind the door is her lifelong best friend, also the person she has let down the most in the world. If she hadn't been executed by the Navy, she could continue to support the opera troupe, and her best friend wouldn't have died in such a tragic way. Starvation, for a songstress who once possessed the sweetest voice, is such a dreadful ending. After learning this news, she went completely crazy for the first time and committed the biggest crime of destroying the kingdom's navy as a weapon of war. I am the best weapon that Daddy can use. With me, all the resources can be quickly retrieved. Princess Past raised her fist, showing off her strength. Everyone needs to be careful. We are at odds with the world, the singer's voice faintly echoed. Due to the resources being used to activate the 1st and 2nd Guardians, as well as raising the Tower of Heaven, the Guardian of the 3rd level, the Opera House Phantom, is in standby mode due to lack of energy. Even the non-scientific Divine Era weapons follow the principle of energy conservation. It's just that the power source for these weapons is a bit special. We already understood this long ago. That's why we chose it. The verdant sea dragon beast stretched its streamlined body. It is precisely by understanding one's powerlessness and helplessness in the face of injustice that one longs for power. Without power, no matter how beautiful the dance or how wonderful the singing voice, it cannot change the world. The Supreme King, who wanted to give himself power, is about to go to battle. Just like in the past, sing for me and the princess. Inside the closed gate, as the dancer wished, just like every time she left the king in the past, a captivating voice could be heard. The dancer and the princess closed their eyes together, as if they had traveled back in time. We turn into light and go to a distance further than the end of the world. Overflowing with longing, I look at your gentle face. Love can turn into a radiance that shines on you and hold destiny in its own hands. I am willing to believe that no matter what kind of miracle, it will happen. You are so endearing. Even if there is silent blame from the whole world, I am willing to sing for you. To understand your sadness, I am here praying for you. Happiness is waiting for you. That was a promise between the songbird and the dancer. On top of the tall tower, the songbird watched the dancer fade away, feeling a vague sense of unease. So, she sang a song that symbolized the bond between them. Are they friends or more than lovers? Both of them are waiting for that answer, wanted to understand each other more, wanted to be closer together. Unfortunately, what they received was not an answer, but destruction. Like a pair of birds intertwined together. When one falls, the other cannot survive. In truth, as long as they can let go of certain things, the canary with a beautiful voice can always survive. However, she didn't choose to do that. Instead, after her best friend departed from this world, she chose to hide. She hid in a secret room within the tower, a room that no one could find. The most beautiful flower in the kingdom withered away. Hearing the long-lost singing of the songstress, tears welled up in the eyes of the dancer. Unfortunately, she couldn't cry anymore because both she and the songstress, and even the princess, were long gone. The only thing left was the corpse of the transformed king of undead, turned into a weapon. In a way, the princess of the lost kingdom, the beloved songstress, and the dancer were all gone. What remained were just fragments of their memories, weapon components with code names like Lost Princess, War Dancer, and Enchanting Songstress. Why did the king give weapons souls and emotions? Perhaps because of that, he was the supreme king. Large drops of transparent liquid rolled down from the corner of the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast's eye, marking the most vulnerable moment for this super war weapon from the divine era. However, the dancer had promised herself not to cry anymore. After witnessing the tragic end of the kingdom and realizing her own powerlessness, she underwent a transformation. Now, she possesses a power stronger than anyone else and is the ace of the seas. Underground Cemetery's second-level guardian, the Emerald Sea Dragon Beast. Target: Leviathan Empire. Let's go. The enormous sea dragon beast burst out from the ground and, following the river formed by the melting of the snow on the highest mountain range in the center of the continent, ventured towards the Leviathan Empire. With its immense blue body, there was no intention of hiding, as this was the Underground Cemetery's public strategy, a necessary means to conquer the world. Sister Songstress, I am leaving too. Past Princess, as always, remained oblivious to the blurry and ambiguous feelings between Sister Songstress and the dancer. To her, this was just a routine ceremony between her little aunt and the sister she admired. Underground Cemetery's first-level guardian, the Black Iron Giant, and the princess. Let's go. Target: Sea Kingdom. The last Black Iron Giant came out from the mountains and headed towards the Sea Kingdom with big steps. After the two of them left, a girl's whisper came from behind the closed door. Why do humans always make the same mistakes? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.